the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
I love the efficiency of bourbon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
Oh, yeah, baby. Santa Claus, how are you, my friend?
I want to make a reference that you will get that nobody else got last night.
Okay.
The 1977 Bears finished the year 6-0 with the Bob Thomas field goal in the Storm at the Meadowlands to get into the playoffs. Because you might be thinking, we don't want to keep Eberflus, though. Well, as Mike North said, he liked Jack Pardee, but Pardee got him into the playoffs and then ran to Washington. Not that Eberflus has a chance to run to another team, but in theory, if he ran the table, made the playoffs, there is precedent before that would say he could still lose the playoff game, not that I want him to, and still you move on from your coach because you say we got to get better. So what I'm trying to tell Bear fans is just root for them to run the table, man. Like, there's no guarantee that Flus would even be brought back. Or maybe if he runs the table and wins a playoff game, maybe you want him back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We got to see how the rest of the season plays out, but I think so many people already have their minds made up on Fields or Eberflus or like, I just want the Bears to win. I mean, I'm glad Fields is in there, but even if it was Bajan, I'd be rooting for him.
Yep, absolutely. Fuck, if it was Aaron Rodgers as the Bear quarterback,
don't do that to me.
I don't think that motherfucker tore his Achilles. I think he had a bruise there, and he's just stretching this thing out for more dramatic purposes. You really do. Well, let me phrase it this way. Do you think that perhaps he exaggerated the extent of the Achilles tear?
Yes, because he's 40 years old. An Achilles tendon injury for somebody in their 20s is devastating, but at 40? Yeah. I mean, come on, you're looking at probably at least 6 to 8 months, right? I mean, and he's going to be back already. Can't the NFL? Oh, that's right. The NFL loves him. Why would they investigate? If you're lying about injuries, in theory, you can be punished, right?
That's right. You would think that he's a multiple-time offender by now.
Yeah, and of course he turned it into, I saw a clip of it about a week or two ago. I hate that fucker Pat McAfee. He played at West Virginia, actually. I hate his shows. I just saw a clip on Twitter. Of course, he's dressed in some kind of tank top or whatever, But Rodgers is on there, and he starts in with this conspiracy theory shit. Like, you know how he was about the vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to say the fact I've gotten healthy, it's stuff the league doesn't want you to hear. They're probably going to cut my mic any second now. That's literally what he was saying. They're going to cut my mic at ESPN because they don't want you to know what I did to get back.
That's so fucking wild.
Yeah, he's such a fucking right winger.
I think that he went to New York to rehabilitate his image because that's the, you know, media capital of the world. And I think that, you know, he's failing in that endeavor. Well, the injury certainly didn't help. If he would have won football games as the Jets quarterback, that would have been the penultimate of him rehabilitating his image, because he could have gotten away with anything and the New York media would have forgiven him. But now, you know, he keeps saying some stupid stuff, and I'm not sure. I would love to see what the Q rating is. You know what the Q rating is, right?
The QAnon rating?
Yeah, that's
he's a star over there. It's 100.
That's right. That's like how much people like your personality on TV, your Q rating. I don't know why it's called Q. And Joe is right. Rogers is a media whore. But I bet you his Q rating, it probably is split. 50% of the people out there love him and 50% despise him like you do.
Is that good for him?
Yeah, because it's like the Howard Stern thing. You know, remember the movie Howard Stern, where the executives are saying 50% of the people love him and then 50% of the people hate him, but they're the ones listening more minutes. How can that be? They want to see what outrageous thing he says. So.
Yeah, it reminds me of something I've heard wrestling promotions say, that the worst thing that they could have is for you to not get a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if the guy gets really, really hated or really, really liked, they're one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you're just like no reaction whatsoever, that's a death nail.
Yep.
So I guess that's good for Rodgers then.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's why he still does all these ads. You know, he gets attention. By the way, Mr. Shorty asked about my arm. It is progressing nicely. Going to have some pictures taken in a while to make sure the blood flow is as well. And every once in a while, it feels kind of weird, you know. And so I think, well, how old am I now? But overall, no complaints, man.
But your arm still looks like Karl Malone's when he hit Isaiah in the head that time.
That's
and
right.
Busted him open. You still got that big bicep, so that's good.
Thank you, Heidi. What about you? I'm listening to you and Shorty yesterday on what's the name of his Monday night show? I should
Last Call at Hallis Hall.
Last Call at Hallis Hall. I tune it in, and you're talking about the last 5 games, and you know I might not even know if I'll be around next year for games. I'm like, what's he talking about? You want to share with our audience what?
I got like something in the back of my neck. I mean, the lady friend said that she thought it was a cyst, but so I was like, oh, that doesn't sound too bad, and I kept thinking it'll clear up or something. Then I started to put heat on it because that's what she told me to do. And I searched on Google and it seemed to be something that it advised. So I was like, all right. But it seems to have exacerbated it, made it worse. The back of my neck is really sore and it feels like a golf ball under the skin. It's like the fucking logo from Caddyshack on the back of my neck. And I'm like, oh my God, what if it's a fucking, like, I need Schwarzenegger to come out from Kindergarten Cop and say, it's not a tumor. That's exactly what I need right now. But I'm worried about shit like that. Like, I mean, not to be hypochondriac, I'm going to the dermatologist on Thursday, but I'm like, God, what if I have to have surgery, or what if it's a cancer thing? You know, like, it's terrifying. You know, I've never had surgery. I hope they can just like give me antibiotics, or it'll be really painful, but just stick something in there and make, you know, and I don't know, get all the pus or whatever the fuck in there out of there, you know?
Wow. And you had, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting, but recently you had something else that's.
Yeah, that was on my arm. I had to get that thing removed. They said it wasn't cancer though. Ended up getting it tested in a lab. It was a skin tag, but it looked like a skin tag that had gone through hell, every stage of Dante's Inferno. It just looked like, oh my God, if a woman sees that, she'll say like, there's something wrong with this dude. That's like AIDS or something. That's how bad it looked. It looked like something from the 80s, you know, in like 1982 when like people were dying quickly. It just looked awful. And they removed it and it was okay. And I don't know if it has anything to do with my diet, but okay.
Have you been eating? Somebody for the audio podcast people, somebody wrote, Rick Wamps wrote, must be your diet. Have you been eating golf balls?
No. Like other than that, I feel pretty well. Psychologically, I'm stressed about it. But
yeah, anybody would be. Let me ask you this: Are they about? Is it about this size?
I can't see it. Not being sarcastic at all. I can't. It's in a spot where I literally can't see it. And so I asked the female to look at it. And she's like, "It's under the skin. It's not bad. Don't worry about it." But I can feel it, and it feels like a golf ball to me.
C Sharp wants to know maybe you swallowed somebody's balls.
No, just the cum. No, I've never been around a guy's balls.
This woman obviously swallowed somebody's balls.
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
It's on, like I say, it's the back of my neck, right where your hairline would stop. Like my hair covers it right now just because I need a haircut. Mm-hmm. But even if I tried to look at it and took a picture in a mirror, it's just an angle that I can't see.
Mm. Joseph might be 100% correct here. It's aging. It's just shit happens when you get old. It's like, why the fuck is this happening? And you go to the doctor and you spend $6,000. Yeah, it's just aging. It's just stress. Whatever. It's like nothing you can do. Heidi says, "Holy shit!" Yeah, at least that's what I think that emoji means. C Sharp says, "Good, Dan. Stay away from the balls." Wait a minute. What if he's gay and he likes sucking on balls? There's nothing wrong with that.
How'd they know?
All right. A couple quick announcements here. Johnny Santucci has the night off. He's feeling under the weather. So hopefully he's back next week, but take as long as you need to, brother. This is a stressful time of the year, isn't it, Dan? I mean, you find some ailment. Excuse me. You find some ailment on you, and then Christmas and the work and family drama and blah, blah, blah. December, it should be called Stress-tember or some shit like that. But hopefully the Tooch is fine. And we don't have a media mashup for tonight's show. I thought we would do something different given that the Bears had the week off. We're going to look at some video clips of the media talking about the Chicago Bears, and then Dan and I will comment on it. And then at the last half-hour show, when we usually talk about movies, Dan and I are going to talk about supporting actors and supporting characters that we've liked over the years, and kind of inspired by a documentary that was produced by HBO. We'll talk more about that in length, but you folks in the chat room who plan on being with us for the entire 2 hours, well, in that last 30 minutes, start thinking about character actors that you can put up on chat, and Dan and I can discuss. Now, regarding the main topic of the night is going on that roll. We came off of a very impressive game against the Lions in Detroit. Unfortunately, we didn't finish. Week 12, the game was not that impressive looking, except for the defense, but we managed to pull it off at the end. So those two games are almost opposite of each other. So the question now is 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, weeks 14 through 18, can the Bears run this schedule? We know we can beat the Lions, right, Dan? I mean, this is based on what I saw week 11. We can definitely beat the Lions, wouldn't you say?
Don't want to pound my chest and sound like Mr. Overconfident, because I sort of did that in week 11, and everyone thought I was crazy. So there's no way the Bears can win, and the Bears should have won.
Yep.
I can't explain what the defense did those last two drives, but whatever it was wrong. The rest of the game, they played flawlessly, and then so it's at home, it's outdoors. The Bears should win. That's the problem. We worry if the Bears go to Arlington Heights and get indoors, they could become soft and be, a little dome team. And that's what Detroit is. So I know Dan Campbell wants to be tough and bites shins or whatever, but I still say it's going to be tougher for them to be outdoors on grass in December.
Yep, I agree with you. Before we continue with the rest of the games, I want to acknowledge Heidi. She writes, "I've been having a hard time, but I can't miss your show. You make me feel a lot better, guys. Aldo, Dan, and everyone in the chat room, love you guys." Heidi, we love you too. And let's talk after the show. Maybe you want to come on next week. Maybe that will lift your spirits. And if there's anything at all we at the barroom can do, if you need anything, please let us know, and we'll work we'll work on a way to help you out. So let's stay in touch.
We know one thing: Heidi does not want to talk movies with us.
Why is that? She doesn't see movies.
Yeah, I remember like the last time she was on, we started talking TV. She's like, "Okay, I'm leaving."
Mm-hmm.
Heidi, I love you. Be well, get better. But I know you don't like movies.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I'm with you on this Sunday's game against the Lions. This is a team. The Lions team has given up a lot of points. I think even Chargers, Saints, going back to week 7, maybe with the Raiders. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they've given up a lot of points. So this Aaron Glenn defense, and I listened to a lot of Dan Campbell's press conferences. He refers to him as AG. AG is going to get it fixed. AG is going to get it fixed. I don't think AG is going to get it fixed. I was critical of Aaron Glenn and Deuce Staley on Hard Knocks last year. I thought they were kind of clowning around a lot in training camp. Of course, that could have been just the HBO edit, but they didn't instill any confidence in me. Now, Deuce Staley went to New York Jets and he got fired a couple of weeks ago, and AG's defense isn't playing very good. So I think that, Danny Shimon made a prediction on Buffon 55. He said that he believes, this was before the season, he said he believes that Justin Fields is going to have a game where he passes for 300 yards and rushes for 100 yards. It could be this week, Dan. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't have a lot of confidence in the AG, Mr. Garland. Oh, you weren't talking about him. He's the Attorney General.
I don't either. Trust me, what a dope.
I don't want to badmouth Detroit. All I can say is it feels like the Bears hopefully learned from giving up those last 2 possessions, and the defense, in spite of those 2 possessions, seems to be playing at a much higher level, especially since the trade. And I think hopefully we get Foreman back. I think Foreman's the best of our 3 backs right now. I really do. And pound the rock a little bit, take some pressure off Justin, and it's at home, score some points, get the fans behind us. I feel the Bears can win. I feel like it could happen. And then, not to switch, but since the game we went to Cleveland 2.5 years ago, when Justin got sacked 9 times, you always have the other team have revenge games on us. I want that to be Fields' revenge game against Cleveland. And he's going to be playing Joe Flacco, which makes me a lot happier than if he were playing P.J. Walker. Now, granted, Flacco was a Super Bowl MVP. That was a long time ago. And I don't want to take away from him, but PJ, I liked PJ. Let me just say that. So I didn't want him to have his Bears revenge game against us in that game. So it makes me, I say that now, but it feels like, okay, we can take Flacco.
Yep.
I feel like we can take Flacco.
We can, and we will. I am predicting 2 victories right there, week 14 and 15. My only concern is that it's going to be in the road and that you are going to be there.
Hey, can the Floos win 2 in a row this week? And can the Bears win 2 in a row with me at a game? Because they won the Raiders game, the last game that Heidi and I was at.
That's right. Do we need to fly Heidi into Cleveland with you? Was she the missing key to having a victory? It depends, because you and I, we've gone to 3 games. We're 1 and 2 together, right? Is that correct?
Let's see. We did the Lions, the Dolphins, and the Browns. Is that it? No, and the Vikings. Yeah. We did the Vikings game together.
Oh, that's right.
We lost that one too, though. That's when we were trying to lose, though. We were like, wait a minute, are we scoring? Put Tim Boyle in. The worst quarterback since Steve Stenstrom. I'm telling you.
Right. When you look back at that game, yeah, you're right. When you look back at that game, that could have been listed as a victory because we got the number 1 overall pick thanks to that loss and Lovie Smith's win in Texas. And that trade with that number 1 pick can really transform this entire franchise. So we're going to talk about that a little later after I play a clip. But back to the schedule, winning 5 in a row. Then we got at home back-to-back game
Christmas Eve.
Birds. Yeah, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Cardinals and Falcons. Now, these 2 teams are still in the hunt. Kyler Murray is back at quarterback for the Cardinals. And now the Falcons have been on a roll. They're fighting for an NFC South playoff spot. But I got a feeling that this Chicago Bears team can beat both of those teams.
I think the Bears unless they end up falling on their ass the next couple of weeks, I think the Bears will be favored to beat the Cardinals.
Yeah.
At home on Christmas Eve. It's going to be a night game. I know it's not like 8:30, but it's a 3:25, 3:30 Central kickoff.
Nice.
So most of that game will be in darkness. And then you got the early game on New Year's against the Falcons. And then here goes the big question. I mentioned this last night. Can you imagine a scenario? Let's say the Bears would run the table and not make it. Or let's just say they go 4-1 and not make it, whatever. But they go to Lambeau and win. I can't imagine George McCaskey being like, all right, come to my office, I'm firing you. Because they want to beat Green Bay more than we want them to beat Green Bay.
Yeah.
So if Flus wants to save his job, he goes up there and beats Green Bay in week 18. He's got it. That's part of the recipe for him to stay.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so we're already touching on some of the topics that I want to react to based on some of the media highlights that we've collected. So let me play one and we can talk about it. By the way, Bob Angelo, the guy who wrote this book and was one of our favorite.
Oh, yeah, good book.
Yeah, I promised him we would have him back here in December. So in case that doesn't happen, I just want to remind everyone that this really is a fantastic read. The NFL Off Camera, an A to Z guide to the league's most memorable players and personalities. And Bob Angelo wrote it. He was a producer, cameraman, writer, and director for NFL films for decades. He's got great little, like 3-4 page stories on people like George Halas, Walter Payton, Hollywood Henderson.
And you can search your players in the index.
Exactly.
If you're like, oh, I don't care about, Hollywood Henderson, I want to know what his interactions were with George Halas. You can just look up whomever, and it'll tell you exactly what page he's talking about him on.
Yes, and it's a great, and I'm not being, saying something bad towards Bob Angelo.
And you got me that book, and a great book, and I got you there at Kramer one.
You did, which I've started reading, and it's excellent. We got to have him back on. But I was just going to say real quickly about Angelo's book is it's a great bathroom book, and he has said that himself. So when you go in there for that, 90-second or in my case, 90-minute shit, you can read some of that stuff. It's great stuff. All right. Let us talk about the latest rumor that is going on now. It was reported by Josina Anderson, who was formerly at ESPN, and I believe she's an so-called insider now for CBS Sports. She is writing that there is interest at Halas Hall on Eric Bieniemy, the offense coordinator for the Washington Commanders, formerly with the Kansas City Chiefs. Did you hear about this, Dan?
No, and again, I don't want to make race an issue, but every person that she reports on, I'll just leave it alone. It's like if you're a white athlete, she has nothing to say to you.
Really? I never got that.
Oh, my God. Go back and look through her tweets. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Whatever. I have no animosity with her. I don't know this lady. And the only reason I would say no to Bieniemy, the only reason in theory, and I've said this so many times, and you can vouch for me on this, I hate that Kansas City offense. I don't want any more Kansas City lookalikes. Now, I know against Detroit or Minnesota, we're throwing the shallow screens over and over and over, but in theory, it's the same thing. If it's 4th and 2, 4th and an inch, we're in a shotgun. I can't stand the Chiefs offense. We tried that with Terry Shea. We tried that with Matt Nagy. We're still, even though it's supposedly Green Bay's offense, it's still a variation of it now. I don't want any more KC lookalike. The KC's only successful because of Mahomes. I believe that. Donovan McNabb was a good quarterback, but he wasn't going to win the Super Bowl. At least that's the way his career played out. I think Andy Reid wouldn't have won it without Mahomes, is my point. Now he's a genius, but he was a guy that couldn't win the big game before Mahomes got there. Yep.
And now with Matt Nagy, for the first time, he's allowed, but not really the first time because he did it for 6 games back when he was offensive coordinator for the Chiefs before he became head coach of the Bears. But he's been calling plays again. He's taking a bigger role with the offense with the Kansas City Chiefs.
And they're struggling, of course.
Huge. It's like, what the fuck? And you just can't blame it on the wide receivers. You know, he's not utilizing that team's strengths. You know, they should be utilizing Johnny Pacheco. But I want to talk about Pacheco a little more later.
That guy's a horse, man.
Oh, well, okay. Well, let's talk about him now, because I said on Twitter, I want a fucking Johnny Pacheco for my team.
Yeah.
I want that speedy guy, that electrifying guy. And
They
I
can
went
run
and
your ass over.
Yeah, I mean, here are the guys. Where the fuck is it? I want a Johnny Pacheco because I grew up watching this guy, number 40, Gale Sayers. And you knew that when he touched the ball, something magnificent was going to happen. No offense to Foreman, Herbert, or Rashawn Johnson. Those guys are good, and you could say very good, but they're not fucking Gale Sayers, and they're not this next guy either that I grew up watching, Walter Payton. I want a guy on the Chicago Bears who will give me chills, just like this guy is giving me chills right now, holding the ball like only Walter can hold it, and fighting for yardage, bouncing off tacklers. He's just fucking tremendous. We don't have that now.
I don't know if I'll say I don't know if the guy in KC's. I don't think they have that either when it comes to Walter or Gale Sayers, but he's very good and a hard runner, and I feel like he's more power than speed. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know his 40 time, but I think Pacheco is more of a power guy, and I like him a lot too. And it's just hard to believe they got him in the 7th round, and he was so good in the postseason last year too. So it's not like he is just some Johnny come lately. Yeah, he's good. I honestly feel like Foreman can be that guy, you know, that can run you over. I know Mike North from listening to you all's presser that he feels David Montgomery's that guy. And I like David Montgomery when he was here. I don't now. I will go ahead and say that. But I don't think he was that good either with regards to, you know, what you're looking for, what you're espousing for. I don't think that was David Montgomery.
Yeah, no, not at all. And again, you know, all of these backs that the Bears have had recently, the 3 that they have now, and David Montgomery, these guys are good backs. There's no doubt about it. But I want to get back. I you know, and frankly, Devin Hester filled that void for me of the Peyton Sayers because he was electrifying. So even if they were to get a receiver like a Tank Dell, who was available to the Bears in the NFL draft and unfortunately got injured this season, but he is like a version of Tyreek Hill. Those are the type of players I'm talking about. Throw them a short pass, hand them the ball, whatever, just get the ball in their hands, and then magic happens. Those are the type of players we need on the Chicago Bears.
Until Matt Nagy got here, Tariq Cohen was kind of like that in a smaller way, no pun intended with his height. He wasn't exactly Gale Sayers, but, you know, he had some moments. See the Steelers game in 2017, and then Nagy got here, and he's like, how can I not utilize his strength? Well, I'm going to run Cohen straight up the middle, right there through the 2-hole every time. Like, it's just like, come on, man, get that guy outside. Get him running a wheel route or something, but he always had Cohen running straight up the middle.
Yeah,
Jesus
you're right.
Christ. Before he got hurt, though, he was explosive.
So getting back to Bieniemy, you know, I remember reading during training camp this season that Ron Rivera was asked by the media about some of the players complaining about Eric Bieniemy, and Ron Rivera said, yes, it's true. A number of players have come up to me saying that he speaks really rough to them. He calls them names, he belittles them, and so forth. And I told them, that's because he has very high expectations for all of you. And so go talk to him directly about how you want to be talked about. So that's something right there. And then LaShawn McCoy, who played a season with the Kansas City Chiefs, had this to say about Eric Bieniemy. Listen close.
What's his value? What makes him a good offensive coordinator? See, the problem is a lot of these people that go on social media, oh, he should be the guy for the job. They haven't played there. They're not in the locker room. I've been in the rooms where he's coaching, and he has nothing to do with the pass game at all, right? When the plays are designed, that's Andy Reid. When you talk about offensive coordinators, I can tell you what makes Brian Daboll with the Giants a very, very good coordinator. I can tell you what Andy Reid or Doug Peterson. But when I asked about Eric Bieniemy, what makes him good? When we watch the film or practices and we correct the wide receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, he doesn't talk in there. Andy Reid talks in there. He may say things to the running back because he's an ex-running back coach. I get that. But he has no real responsibility. Now you go from the Chiefs, where you can hide behind Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. Then you go to the Washington, where you got to call plays. You got to run the meetings. You got to run the installs. The last issue I have with him is what makes Andy Reid so great, not the play calls, which we see that, which, I mean, that's one of it. But the other thing is, like, adapting to the players. With Bieniemy, my first practice, I couldn't believe it. He dog coaching, he dog cussing the players. I'm like, and not just the regular players, Kelsey, other players. So it's like, it's hard for me. I'm rooting for him because he's a black coach, and I love to see black coaches win. Also, he's a running back coach. Running back coaches don't never get a chance to be offense coordinators. The last one was like Anthony Lynn. So I want that to do well for him. But if I got to do my job and be honest, my thing is just, where is the true value at?
All right, wow. I got a lot to say. First off, I love Shady as a player. When he's in Philly or Buffalo. I hate that he's always talking shit about Justin Fields, but wow. Now, I didn't want Bieniemy simply because of, again, a continuation of that we want to be Kansas City scheme. Like I said, that's the part that oh God, not that again. It just doesn't work here because we don't have the players to do it. But I didn't know. I just thought, based upon hype, that he was going to be a great coach and just needed the opportunity. So I assumed that he was calling the pass plays the same as, like, that's a really damning anecdote for him to say he has nothing to do with the passing game. And your small story there, or anecdote about Ron Rivera, coupled with that, it's like, if he can't relate to his players, he's screaming and yelling at them, and he doesn't have the scheme all to himself anyway, then that's not what we need in Chicago. We don't. I personally don't want another coach who's learning on the job. Right. So that's another reason you'd look at Harbaugh, because he's taking a team to the Super Bowl. We don't want a guy here, give him a big deal, and then like he's just yelling at players and can't even pass the ball. That's not what Justin needs either.
Totally agree with that. The thing about Bieniemy that worries me is what Shady just said. The fact that this truly is his first year as an OC, calling plays and so forth, and the Washington Commanders have not shown any, they've had flashes where they've scored, 30 points a game and so forth, but they, you can't look at the Washington Commanders say, wow, has Eric Bieniemy made a huge difference. No, he did sign a 2-year contract. So essentially he's got another year to go with the Commanders contract, but they could fire him and he'd be looking for a job. If I'm the Bears, I don't fucking touch this guy. Now, one thing I want to say on his behalf, this was Tyreek Hill. He tweeted out, Shady's just mad because Eric told him to tuck the ball up tighter in practice. And apparently the story to that is that he told him, hey, motherfucker, tuck that ball up. So, it's the way he talks to people that gets certain people really upset with his coaching style. That shit doesn't fly in the NFL nowadays. Players, rightfully so, in my opinion, demand to be talked to as men and with respect. And, every once in a while a player needs a kick in the ass, but you don't fucking call them names in public and so forth. You bring him into a closed room and you talk to them firmly. Hey, this is your last chance or whatever needs to be said, but not on the practice field, not especially a veteran like McCoy. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, you have to have, look, I'm not trying to take a shot at Bieniemy here, but it's just the fact that he hasn't done anything yet. I mean, not to say he won't be a great coach, but if you're going to have that vocabulary, that condescending, extensive vocabulary with, again, cussing doesn't bother me, but maybe if someone was screaming at me like I was in the fucking army, it would. So I think if you're going to be yelled at by a coach like that, maybe Bill Belichick yells at you like that and you're like, oh, okay. He knows what he's doing. I mean, he's won 39 Super Bowls. It's like, I'll listen to him scream at me, but the dude that can't even draw up the passing plays, I don't know if I want that guy screaming at me.
Yeah. Demand Dice E says, didn't we have a coach like that named Mike Ditka?
But that was 40 years ago.
Exactly. I don't think Ditka can coach in this league. No, I really don't. And if you read Otis Wilson's biography, you'd know why. He just had a hard time relating to certain players. And yeah, I don't think Ditka could coach in this league. He'd have to have a different approach to coaching. That's for sure.
As much as I love Otis, just to play devil's advocate, because I read the book and know the reference as well, but for every Otis, there's always a William Perry that thinks Ditka's the fucking god, you know? So even Mongo, you know, part of the defense love buddy, he carried Ditka off the field during the Super Bowl.
That's right.
So I'm just saying that for every person that's his detractor, there's somebody that loves him too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, James says, so everyone is soft now. No, I don't think that's the case. Everybody wants to be treated with respect, and that should even extend to the industries and activities usually considered masculine. And so just because you're in a league with tough guys, whether it's wrestling or football or hockey and so forth, there are certain things nowadays that are acceptable that not acceptable that were acceptable in the past.
Water.
Yeah,
you were viewed as a
perfect example.
You were a pussy in 1994 if you wanted a drink of water on the fucking practice field, even if it was a 3 a day and it was 100 degrees in Wisconsin.
Yes.
Like you couldn't drink water. So now everyone knows that dude from the Vikings died in like 2005. I forget what his name is. I mean, no disrespect to him, but somebody died because of lack of hydration on the field during the summer camp, like when training camp was training camp. I mean, now they know like shit, hydration's essential. That doesn't make you less of a man. So that's kind of the same thing. You were beaten down to be brought up 40 years ago and you couldn't drink water and you got to be tough and all this shit. Like now, like I think it's just a respect thing now, you know? I mean,
yes. Mr. Shorty says he remembers
just evolved.
that. Nobody has come up with the name yet. If you come up with the name, you win $1,000. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So Eric Bieniemy, not too interested in him.
But it's not because, for me, the main thing is it's a continuation of KC and the fact he's never been a coach before. We've tried this so many times. See Eberflus, for example. You know, like I want a coach who has some experience, even if that means keeping Eberflus.
Yes. Oh, you didn't know that I was going to come up with this next.
Oh.
That's a perfect segue. This is Albert Brie. I'm not sure where Albert Brie works nowadays, but he was on
CBS, maybe?
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe CBS. He was on the Captain
Sports
J.
Illustrated, one of them.
All right. He was on the Captain J. Hood show, and he said this about coaching candidates that are out there now.
It's starting to happen every year now because there's so many changes. I'm not sure like the coaching pipeline is like flush with like obvious candidates. So, what can happen is a team, really struggles early in the year and you get to like Halloween and it's like, okay, like we're going to be like our team is going to be making a change after the year. And then you start to play a little better and you look in, mid-December at like what's out there and like, what the landscape looks like as far as coaching candidates go. And I mean, let's put it this way, guys, like get beyond Ben Johnson, right? Like the Lions offensive coordinator. How many obvious candidates are there out there?
I mean, is the OC, and I've heard the name of the OC in Jacksonville, Press Taylor. I've heard
right.
Ben Johnson. And the OC in Cincinnati, I heard, is highly regarded.
Brian Callahan, yeah, and those guys are highly regarded. But is that like, oh my God, we need to fire a coach to go get one of these guys?
But if you're
like, that's the point I made. That's the point I'm making. Is I think that's what happens a lot of times when you get to this point in the year where teams have been languishing at the bottom of the standings for the balance. You look at it and it's like, all right, like so we need to move on, or it's time to move on. But then, like, what's behind door number 2? And we're getting to that point in the year where it's like, okay, what's behind door number 2? And what's behind door number 2 right now is, like, guys who I think are really good coaches, right? Like, guys that, you have a chance to be great head coaches. Like, I love Brian Callahan. I think Brian Callahan's going to be a fantastic head coach when he gets his shot. But are those names going to fire up fan bases, right? Like, if you're a team president, is that worth like completely detonating your franchise over? I don't know. Now, if you're making a run at Jim Harbaugh, maybe we're talking about something else, because that is something that would probably excite a fan base. And that is something that you would look at and say, okay, like maybe it is worth turning things over and at least rolling the dice with a guy that's won everywhere he's gone. But, I don't know that you're looking at like the current coaching crop and saying to yourself, yes, we need to completely blow up what we're doing here to bring one of these guys in.
Dan, were you looking at the video?
Yes. I was just like, man, don't they have the heat on in the studio? Cap looked like he was at the game,
Yes, I thought the same thing. And then they both looked like they were so unhappy. It's like, it's fucking cold in here, man. I shouldn't have to be wearing my coat.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much. I don't want Cap to not like me or something. I was worried because I criticized them over the treating of that guy from North Carolina, which, again, I sent you that call, by the way. It's on your Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, I do have it, yes. I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, I think his point was, from the way I interpreted Albert Breer, is he's saying, like, yeah, these hot candidates in October seem to, like, just be guys by the time the season's over. And unless you're going to hire Jim Harbaugh or someone that's going to immediately fire up the base, then maybe you shouldn't just make a change just to make change. Is that the way you interpreted it?
Yeah, and I listened to a little of the stuff before that. The context being is that some of these, whippersnapper coaches don't have a lot of experience or have these high pedigrees, but can you really trust that? And so the question then becomes, doesn't Eberflus's value to remain as head coach increase, given that some of the young candidates, the guys who you're hoping to find in the next genius, Bill Walsh, Mike McDaniel, young coach Sean McVay, young coach who is going to revolutionize the game,
John Madden,
maybe you should just give Eberflus another chance. Here's Dave Wannstedt talking about Eberflus.
He's done a fantastic job with the defense. Top 10 defense, number one, stopping the run. I talked with Matt back in OTAs, and he talked about that was the goal. We can't stop everything at one time. Let's start with the run and move to the pass rush and the sacks and so forth. And he's done that. I think he's an excellent coach. And you judge a head coach by how the players are playing. You can lose some games, but did you lose the locker room? Matt's never lost the locker room. I think that the guys lay it on the line for him. I think that they're prepared to come out. They're still trying to find their way on offense. That happy medium between running the Justin Fields, passing Justin Fields. Where does it fit where they can score enough points and win games, but yet at the same time, we're not going to be a wishbone team and run it every time with Justin Fields. So I think they're getting close, and I think it will improve. I think the Bears are going to finish up pretty good. I look for Matt Eberflus to be back next year, the staff to be back, and Justin Fields to be back next year. That's how I see this thing playing out. I think they win 2 or 3 of their last 5 games.
Wow. What do you think?
2 or 3, and that brings him back. I thought he's going to say, I think they run the table. Okay, Wani.
Yeah.
It's first off, I love Wani. Again, I liked Wannstedt even when he was the Bears coach. Like, I remember hearing Mike North say he couldn't have liked anyone that followed Ditka. I liked Wani, and the fact that he talked about the players, not giving up. I felt the players didn't give up on Wani. Even when they were losing, they played hard for him. So that's part of the reason I liked him. I mean, they would lose games like 16-12 or whatever, 20-17, but they were in it. I mean, they got blown out by the Packers a few times, but for the most part, the team played. So, again, that's a good comparison. But I will say Wannstedt always defends the coach. Even when Nagy was here and Fox was here, he always defends the coach where he was a coach too. So I like him. I like him on TV. I liked him as a coach. He's never going to say that the coach should go, though, in my opinion.
Right.
But I was shocked that he already said Justin's done enough to come back. I hope Justin does do enough to come back. I don't know. I feel like, do you believe the Bears have already made a decision? Someone said that earlier too. I don't know if they have or haven't, but
I highly, highly doubt it. And once again, Dan, are you looking at my show flow of clips and stuff? Because you keep segueing straight into the next one. This is a show called NFL on Fox. I don't know where I find this show. You would think on Fox, but I looked all over Fox, found it on the internet, and this is insider Jay Glazer talking about Justin Fields' future. Have the Bears made up their mind?
I still think they're in evaluation mode of Justin Fields. That's what I think. It certainly does some good things, but thing you see the other night, just he still does it with his legs, but it's not. There's a lot of questionable calls with his arm.
Absolutely.
Right? So I still think they're in evaluation mode of what they want. Now, listen, if Justin Fields could show I'm the guy, he's it. It changes the whole top of the draft. It completely changes everything. And then they could put pieces in around him. But if they have to use it on a quarterback instead of using it on a receiver or tackle or something along those lines, it's just completely different. But I think they're in eval mode still.
Do you agree with? And this is my opinion. It's like this is way more about how Justin plays than wins and losses, right?
No, I think it's both. You got to see. Obviously, you want to see the dude win.
I guess how well you're playing is irrelevant if it's not translating to something.
But it's also like, last year, he did a lot with his legs. So this year they said, okay, let's see if we could start the season, show off more with his arm. And that didn't work. Right. So then they started getting his legs more involved and he started doing things like that. But I can't answer the question for you. If he's their guy, I don't think the Bears can answer the question yet.
Dan, what do you think of what Jay said?
I have to make a comparison first because this just popped in my head immediately. Maybe you'll disagree. Jay Glazer, I'm like, oh my God, who does he look like now? Saddam Hussein came to my head for one. But secondly, did you see the Superman, Christopher Reeve Superman films, the old ones from the 70s?
Yeah, Lex Luthor, you think?
Yeah. There's a part where Superman takes Ned Beatty and Gene Hackman back to jail. And Gene Hackman gets mad and takes his wig off and gives this promo about how he's the genius of our time. And Ned Beatty looks at him shocked because he didn't know he had a wig. He looks like Hackman when he took his wig off. He looks like Lex Luthor and he takes his fucking wig off, and then Superman too.
You know what? I always freak out when I see him on the pregame show on Fox, and he is like 5'6", 5'7". This guy is like a professional wrestler. He's
MMA guy for sure.
Yeah, MMA guy. But I'm always shocked at how small he is.
He sounds rough now. It sounds like, I guess we're all getting older, but his voice sounded like, man, is he sick?
Sounded like he was out in the New York cold and came into the studio and they said, we got to go on the air now.
I don't know. I was so distracted by his voice that I don't know if I retained everything I should have. But I guess the gist of it was he was saying, okay, Fields ran last year. They want to see him pass a little bit. Yeah, the wins matter a little bit, but they need to see some play from him as well, some effective things on the field. Was that your takeaway?
Yeah, and essentially what you said before the soundbite is that they haven't made up their minds. They still want to see. And I think they're leaning towards keeping him because that's the fastest path to winning football games. You draft the quarterback, and you've got to expect there to be a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years of development.
He's 24, man. He's 24.
Exactly. And so we've developed quarterbacks in the NFL. We used to develop quarterbacks 3, 4, sometimes 5 years. All right, kid, get in there. Now everyone expects instant gratification. Are we being too rough on Justin Fields? And particularly since the offensive coordinator may not have been a good marriage, and so doesn't he deserve another chance? The big question, of course, is the money associated with that. Is he going to cost us $250 million?
But why would he though? If his play doesn't match that or hasn't matched that, I don't think Justin or his agent can lie about certain statistics that are, his detractors would point to. So maybe if he's going to his 4th year next year, And maybe you do have to extend him that 5th year, and that's when you pay him some pretty good coin. And then you could franchise him in theory. But what I'm saying is maybe he's someone that's like, okay, I get it. I haven't played like a top 5. Maybe I'll get there. I want to get there. So you don't have to pay me like a top 5 yet.
Yeah. I hope.
If I'm Justin Fields, I'm like, dude, more than anything, more than money, I want respect. Just fucking give me a hug and tell me I'm your guy. Every moment that I've been here, I've had Matt Nagy tell me I'm not ready to start. Then last year I've been told all I can do is run. And this year all I've heard was, well, if I don't play like Mahomes, I'm going to be out of here. Can somebody just tell me I'm here so I can buy a house and try to get better and relax and not look over my shoulder? Well, if I'm Justin Fields, that's what I'm saying.
And Ryan Poles did one of those two things, maybe both. He gave him a big hug in the locker room after that win against the Vikings. Did he whisper to his ear?
He checked him for a hernia. He said, cough.
Jamal says, I believe the Bears are still evaluating Justin. There has been a ton of insiders saying they're evaluating Justin. The insiders are getting it from the Bears front office. Yeah, I think, I think you're right. But one of the things that I've learned about this Bears front office, they only leak things that they're much more astute than previous Chicago Bears management. They leak things with some strategy behind it. So what would be the strategy of saying we're still evaluating? I don't know what that is.
Unless you're just trying to like be coy about the draft and like maybe making trades again.
Right. Or maybe they're not saying anything because Jay just said, I believe. He didn't say sources tell me, which he normally says. Albert Breer, when he came out with whatever the big story was a couple of weeks ago about Jim Harbaugh, I think it was, whatever it was, he said, I believe. So you got to, these words are important. A lot of times these guys are making it seem like they got insider information, but they really fucking don't.
But maybe, just playing devil's advocate, maybe they've been told on deep background, you can't quote me or say sources. So they're like, okay, I know this is true.
Good point.
So I'll just say I believe because if my opinion looks right, then I won't be Jason LaCanfora, who's always wrong.
Mm-hmm. Where the hell is he nowadays?
Is he still with CBS? He should be fired.
I think he was fired. He's with
NFL Network before that. Yeah, he was so bad.
He's like, I think at Sports Illustrated or something like that.
He's the guy. He's the bot now. The AI that writes articles.
That's right. He's our resident bot. He's such a good fiction writer. We thought we'd have him write some stories.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's talk a little bit about Fields, and more particularly. Here is, I'm trying to determine which order is the best here because this time you didn't give me the perfect segue.
Well, I can try to throw it that way. You just give me a hint on how you want me to take it.
No, so let's talk about Justin Fields as a quarterback. This is Louis Riddick. He feels like the Bears should move on from Justin Fields, but he was also very, very angry at what he sees Luke Getsy doing as offensive coordinator.
I mean, the coordinator has to put together the plan. And the quarterback has to be comfortable with it. And the quarterback has to have enough cachet to be able to say, look, I'm comfortable with this or I'm not comfortable with this. And this is kind of like, I guess at this point in time, look, if I'm Justin Fields, I'm going, look, this is what I'm comfortable with and this is what I'm not. This is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'm not. This is what's helping us move the ball. This is what isn't relative to what I'm comfortable with. And I tweeted during the Monday night game, right? I said, like, I dare Chicago to get in 12 personnel and get under center and run some kind of, first, second down play action pass that they deliver the ball on time in rhythm, and someone's going to run a route that's actually crisp, fast, precise, get out of the break and throw the damn ball. I didn't see it once. Not once. And I'm looking at it like nothing happened on time. Nothing. The drops didn't match up with the routes. Justin looks skittish. It looks like, hey, man, just figure something out and throw the ball. The receivers, I mean, the spacing, the route running, it just all looked like a damn mess. It just did. It's just, and I just watched it again on tape here this afternoon. Just saw something going on. So I wasn't tripping while I was watching this, was I? And then I watched Detroit. Now Detroit game looks different. They're under center. They're running traditional play action. Sometimes the ball is coming out on time, and I'm going, okay, there are some two-back runs. They are getting some seams and gas in the front a little bit. But it's just the inconsistency that it's mind-boggling, and it's infuriating for me just from look, and I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't care. I don't care what happens one way or another with Chicago. But for the fan base and for people who follow the team and who are invested in this team on a daily basis, a yearly basis, I'm sure you are pissed off at this point over the inconsistency and the kind of like lack of continuity in terms of a plan or an attack and the lack of improvement. It's just, and look, here's the last thing I'm going to say. Can somebody tell me why Darnell Mooney has been forgotten as a receiver?
I asked the coach
and
that
why
on
the hell
Tuesday.
is he being used as a lead blocker and as a point of attack guy on all these different screens they run? What is Darnell? 170 pounds soaking wet, maybe with his helmet on?
Yeah.
What's happening here?
Total condemnation of Luke Getsy by Louis Riddick. And I know a lot of people are down on Louis Riddick, but and I am a little bit too. I think he's too harsh on social media. Sometimes somebody says something really innocent, he blocks them or he calls them an idiot or something. But aside from that, what he just said, I agree with 100%. The more and more I learn about Luke Getsy, the more and more I see what he's done. I like the guy. At press conferences, he always interests me, what he's got to say and so forth. But it's pretty obvious that as an offensive play caller and from designing plays and so forth, he's not at the NFL pro level yet. He might have been a good buddy. It's interesting that Aaron Rodgers likes Luke Getsy and Aaron Rodgers likes Nathaniel Hackett. Those guys are two hacks.
Yeah.
They probably, because they get him coffee or they probably massage his balls or whatever, but they clearly aren't great football minds like perhaps many people think that they are. What'd you think about what our guy said, Louis Riddick?
I completely agree with the offensive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I every time we talk, like I bitch about this offense. I was complaining during the KC Green Bay game to you. I was like, I'm just so sick of this offense. And even though we weren't watching the Bears, again, it's the shotgun every play. Like what he just said, bring 35 in there, bring Foreman in there, and run the fucking ball. Get Fields under center. Do your play actions. Do your rollouts. That's when things are always successful. But he just insists, well, that's not the way Aaron would do it. And it's so weird. If you think back in the 3 or 4 games, he always put Bagent in those scenarios. With the two backs or the tight ends and under center. And it's like, why not do that for Justin, man? Like, I said that at the Raider game. I don't even remember who caught the touchdown now, but Bagent rolled out, and I was, you talk to the people around you. I don't know who he was.
Sure.
But like somebody, he threw a touchdown on a rollout, and I was like, why can't he do that when Fields is in there? And the guy was like, yeah, exactly. Like, why does he have to be in the shotgun every fucking play?
Because he's a former quarterback, and just like Matt Nagy, he's got that same instinct. I want to try to throw the ball as often as possible.
Well, you can throw it with them under center. They can't key on where it's going if there's two backs or something, and like maybe you're going to run the ball, but you can do play action off of it. And how many times did Doug Flutie take off out from under center and do like a naked bootleg and get 30 yards when he was with Buffalo? I mean, imagine Fields could do that.
Yep.
And then take it to the house.
Right.
I really hate the shotgun on every play, especially on 4th and like 1 or 2, like why make your running back go 7 or 8 yards just to get 1, because he's already deep behind. Like, just get under center, bro. Yes, I agree with Reddick. Although I didn't hear what Lewis said there about Fields. You said he wanted to move on from Fields. I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I didn't want to make that segment too long, but
okay.
On that show, he did say that perhaps it would be a good thing for Fields to move on for him and for the Bears to start over. So that seems to be the prevailing opinion among the national media, is to move on. But And who was it that said this? Oh, do I have that clip? Troy, fuck, I forgot to load it.
Yeah, didn't Aikman say they've already made their mind up?
No, Aikman, from the clip that I saw, which was, I think, on Monday or Friday, it was last Friday, he said that he believes that the Bears are still evaluating. And
somebody prominently said that they've already made their mind up. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I don't think it was Aikman, though. But yeah, I agree with Louis Riddick. This offense, unfortunately, there's just an incompatibility issue. To be as kind as possible to Luke Getsy, I would call it an incompatibility. And somebody in the chat just put up, where was it? Damon says it still doesn't excuse Justin missing wide open options with mid to minimum pressure on him. You're absolutely right. That's one of the things that worries me the most about Justin Fields is that simple pocket passing things that you need to do in order to win championships, he's inconsistent with. And I'm gonna load this comment up again about that opening play against the Minnesota Vikings at home, the first time they faced the Vikings.
Oh, the empty backfield play.
The empty backfield play. I mean, that is such a mental cramp that he had there. He made the proper adjustment, asking the offensive lineman, telling the offensive lineman to block to the right, but he knew, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, this guy is going to be unblocked. So I got to take 2 steps or just at least drift a little to the right to make it a little harder for him to catch me, and then immediately throw that ball to that guy who's open. There's 2 guys over there. Throw it to the first guy you see. And he, instead of drifting to the right, he didn't like what he saw, and then he looks over the middle, totally forgetting that this guy's going to come to blast him. That's a mental defect there that really concerns me, because the great quarterbacks from yesteryear to today have this mental capacity that is like a fucking vice. I am not going to make that mistake. I learned how to do it. It happened once. I'm not going to do it again. And we were built with that. He doesn't make the same mistakes twice. No, he's made them 10, 15 times.
Well, let me be an excuse maker for him on this particular issue.
Please.
Again, I've said it earlier, and I could be completely wrong, and ultimately the Bears could move on from him. It might be the right move. I still want to say he's 24. And like you said, like look at Terry Bradshaw. It didn't click for Bradshaw until his 5th season. Mm-hmm. And the Steelers gave up on Terry. I know it's a different era, but they gave up on Terry. The only reason that Terry got his gig back was because Joe Gilliam couldn't stay clean. Mm-hmm. He got on drugs and shit, and Terry was asking for a trade, and they eventually put him back in the lineup, and they win the Super Bowl, and then they win another Super Bowl, and then they win 2 more right after that. So I'm just saying, like, but they had given up on him. They had given up on Bradshaw, and he asked Al Davis to trade for him.
Yep.
And
that's
so
it's 5 years.
It's a different era. I know. We're talking about like fucking Gerald Ford is president or something. No, Nixon at that point still maybe. No, Ford is president because he resigned. Anyway, it's a long time ago. But what I'm saying to you is sometimes it takes people time to make it. I mean, and he's got to make mistakes like to correct them. I get it. It's a big one. He ended up getting hurt in that game. And it wasn't necessarily, I don't think that play even indicated that he's injury prone. It's just a fluke the way he landed on his thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, people
but he held the ball so long. He could have thrown it away. He could have thrown it to the running back who was by the sideline. It was 6 or 7 seconds, I think it was. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? You got to make faster decisions. You know,
is that part of his growth process is what I'm saying, though.
Absolutely. It could very well be. You know, I just wish with the growth process, I wish the processing was a little faster by now. And I understand. I totally understand. You know, you probably have 2 coaches, his quarterback coach and his offensive coordinator, who have not been able to get through to him and help him process faster and call games that would at the moment disguise those imperfections until he grows into the quarterback who can make faster decisions. I totally get it. Totally get it.
And maybe, I don't want, again, I'm not making, well, maybe I am making excuses for him. But against Minnesota, we were all devastated, including Justin, by those 2 fumbles. But maybe those fumbles were a result of his thumb.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, like, people forgetting he's playing hurt right now.
That's right.
Like, he's giving us his heart and his mind and his body. You can say it's his fault because he got hurt because he held on the ball too long. But whatever the reason is, he's giving us what he's got. And, I mean, instead of vilifying him every time he throws an incompletion, maybe if we rallied around him, like, and just see where it goes the rest of the year. Like I said, whoever the quarterback is, just fucking root for him, man. Like, don't boo him Sunday. Don't boo him the first time he gets picked off or fumbles or misses a wide open man, whatever. Quarterbacks sometimes do that. There's only like 5 quarterbacks in the league, maybe 10, that are just like impervious to mistakes. And it's hard to be one of those guys.
I think that this team is at this stage right now where booing them as a fan at Soldier Field, booing them could create much more harm. This is a team right now that could be on the cusp of doing something special, and so they need all the support during those player introductions, during first downs, any little bit of success. Give them a standing ovation, and when a mistake happens, go ahead and groan, but don't fucking boo. Don't boo.
I agree. When I was at that shit show on week 1 with the Packers, when by the third quarter the fans were booing, and I think Jay could take up for me on this. Like, maybe it's also makes me a bad fan because I sort of sat on my hands and was quiet because they're getting our asses kicked. But I've never booed. I've never booed the Bears. Like, I might be quiet and not cajoling, but I've never booed them. Even if it was like somebody, like if I'd have been at a game with Steve Stenstrom, who's my least favorite Bear of all time, maybe I would have booed him. But probably nobody else. Even I love the team, man. So maybe they would just say I was an idiot, and I'm exactly the guy that George McCaskey wants to target. That's essentially what they told that guy on Cap and Jay Hood.
Now that you have said now for probably the 100th time how much you dislike Steve Stenstrom, I got to figure out a way to have him on the show.
Please don't. No, please do. Please do it. It's like the time you had Grody on and was like, oh, Shane, you said he sucked.
That's right. Bear Truth 9 says, can you name some good quarterbacks that came in a Justin Fields situation and without a change of coaching or change of a team end up overcoming it and becoming good? That's a great question, Barrett Truth 9. It is. I can't think of anyone. I'm sure that there have been. But off the top of my head, I cannot think of a quarterback who came into the type of situation that Justin Fields came in with the Chicago Bears and immediately improved. But I do have some context here that could help us when we're debating this topic. And it comes from none other than former NFL quarterback Cam Newton.
All right. Here comes Michael Vick. Here comes a Cam Newton. Here comes Steve Young, right? Here comes these athletic quarterbacks that we're going to get the yards elsewhere. All right. So a typical winning stat line for Cam Newton is this: 208, 215 yards passing, another 80 yards rushing, 1 touchdown, either passing or running, and 3 touchdowns in total. Altogether, that's upwards of 300 yards in total offense. Not only that, it's controlling the clock, and that gives there's chunk plays in there, but it's not the prototypical way we're used to seeing yards being made, right? Now, when you see Justin last night, right, he went 10 for 10, but he probably had like 42 yards in those 10 passes.
Yeah.
It's confidence builders. Now you're throwing the ball out on smoke screens. You're throwing the ball out on bubble screens. You're throwing the screens. You're throwing this. You're throwing that. But at the same time, when it's time for him to say, this is a Justin Fields moment, get the fuck out of his way.
Yeah.
He's now fresh to do that. Rather than I would hate systems like this. Hand the ball off 1 yard. Hand the ball off again, a negative 2 yards. Now it's 3rd and 12.
Yeah, always behind.
And I'm like, yo, bro, I'm not that guy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now you got these exotic blitz packages where it's like, hold on, hey, hold on. Hey, 52's the mic here. Why they easy? No. Hey, 38's the mic. Hey, let's rover to 52. It's too much.
Right.
It's too much. Just let them go.
So I think what he is trying to say now is that there are certain athletic quarterbacks, and he referred to Steve Young and Randall Cunningham in the longer part of the interview. He referred to the athletic quarterbacks, saying people are discounting what they do with their legs. He actually said Peyton Manning did a disservice to the NFL because he gained all his yards with his arm. And what we as football fans who look at the quarterback from the traditional position of the Johnny Unitas, fade back, throw the bomb, 80-yard touchdown, that these athletic quarterbacks are accumulating as many yards as these passing quarterbacks through other ways, through short passing, through their legs, running, picking up their own yards and so forth. So what do you think about that argument, Dan?
Well, I immediately want to defend Justin with the Steve Young comparison. Steve Young was just a guy, Jones and John Taylor and Jerry Rice and Roger Craig and Tom Rathman. So my point being that as the Bears get better and the Bears improve, we may see Justin Fields playing at a Steve Young level. And I know we wanted that this year. We thought we had Chase, Claypool and Mooney, and he's never on target with Mooney. Even when he is, Mooney drops it a lot. It's just like the chemistry's not there. I don't know why. But maybe, you stick with him. Maybe he becomes like a Steve Young as the Bears get better. With that, with Cam Newton saying that, I certainly can't say that he's wrong. I mean, he's the guy that played the position and was MVP and was sort of the same kind of guy that Fields is in terms of his pure body, a big guy that could run your ass over, but could also throw the ball. But again, Newton got an MVP and took a team to a Super Bowl. So maybe Justin can do that as well,
I think that there is so much truth to that. I think when I read the negative comments about Justin Fields, and I have negative comments about him too, but sometimes I wonder if me and other people who are critical aren't falling back into, this is what we grew up with. I mean, I actually saw Johnny Unitas play on television, not in person, and he was the prototypical quarterback. And the name Johnny Unitas and stuff, and he used to throw 80-yard passes to Raymond Berry and blah, blah, blah. And Joe Namath after that, and Bart Starr, and all these other quarterbacks, they were guys who were traditional, stay in the pocket, get protection, fire that ball. But who says that has to be the prototype now? The prototype could be Lamar Jackson, could be Justin Fields. Now, the one negative about it is that they're liable to get banged up. But I think that's going to become less and less of an issue because pretty soon they're going to put flags on the football players.
Well, look at the comparison with Randall. Like Randall ran so much early on in Philly, but he probably played his best ball when he was just throwing the damn ball in Minnesota to Moss.
Yeah, how about that?
They were 15-1, and Randall really wasn't running anymore because he was in his mid-30s or what have you. But he became a pocket passer that he wasn't early in his career. Not to say he couldn't throw for 400 yards on you because he did it at Soldier Field in the Fog Bowl.
Right.
I mean, it happened, but he become a guy that just almost did everything you were just saying. The way we lust after a pocket passer, Cunningham become that guy later. Who's to say Justin wouldn't? And I think right now the thing with the Bears more than any is, can they morally within the building to their fan base, can they justify passing a number one pick 2 years in a row and not taking a quarterback? I think that's what they have to figure out. How do they sell this if they don't take one of the quarterbacks? And let's say you got a guy right now in Houston they could have drafted, right, who's balling. And then what if you don't take one of these two and then suddenly they're playing well next year? I think that's what they're trying to figure out. Like, how do we make the fan base happy right now? If we miss again.
Yeah, and kudos to Nomad and Coach T and a number of other commentators who have been pointing that out. The whole, paradigm shift that we as football fans have to accept. There's a lot of things about the game of football that have to change and will change and have changed. And, it's like we're not going to see the old Raiders hits where you leave a poor wide receiver paralyzed. Those days are gone. They're trying to make it safer. And so, there's tons of stuff. But
if you look at the Ravens have the same coach that had John Harbaugh that was there when they had Flacco, a guy that could only throw the ball, and that was it. And he was still able to make that adjustment with the next quarterback because his talent was a lot different.
That's a great point.
So if one coach can do it, I don't know if the whole league, I don't know if it's the league that needs to change or the fans need to change. It's just these coaches, man. And I don't even mean Eberflus. I mean the offensive coaches. Like when we can call out 3 or 4 games this year where the play calling was just awful. Minnesota being one, Green Bay being one, etc., where they're just running those screens over and over and over. That's not on Justin. Now, he's got to execute. I get it. But, man, that's the inability of the coaching staff to realize what they have.
Right.
If you're cooking dinner and you don't have the right ingredients to cook whatever meal you want, you got to make an adjustment. You can't just force, I've decided we're going to have fucking sushi today. But if you've got shit to make chicken, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's a bad analogy, but
it's a good one.
You can't force what you have if your talent doesn't fit the scheme you're trying to run. And the Bears just over and over and over just keep trying to force him to play a way that maybe he could if he was on a stacked team the way Steve Young was.
Right. It definitely, somebody said this. Gosh, I wish I could remember so I can give attribution, but when the season started, the Bears were intent on trying to see where Justin Fields could go with his passing game. And it didn't work. He complained, I'm too robotic. I got too much stuff going on in my head. I need to be me.
Which is what Cam was saying.
Right, which is exactly what Cam was saying. Absolutely. And so they decided, okay, we're not going to try to see what he can do from a pocket passer, although they still have that mentality. In order to win, he's got to have to make throws from the pocket. But is that really so? And could Justin be the quarterback who blows that paradigm to bits? If he's going to do it, he's going to need an offensive coordinator who will support him and can aid him in designed runs to protect himself, know the best time to call a play where he's running and so forth, calling more rollout passes, doing all the things necessary to protect the quarterback, but also enhance his productivity, both with rushing yards and passing yards.
Do you happen to have Brandon Marshall saying, get the fuck out of his way?
No, I wish I
It's
did.
in that same interview with Cam, like when they go to BMAR, Brandon Marshall says, leave Fields alone. Get the fuck out of his way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you need that. You should find that.
I will find that, I promise.
Yeah, Brandon Marshall was defending him, man. And I love Brandon Marshall. I love to hear him talk. And I wish he was with the Bears longer.
Yeah, me too. I mean, one of my favorite receivers of all time. Not that there were many to pick from, but Zach says that, and I think he's referring to Cam Newton here. And the guy peaked at 25, was out of the game a few years later. He had phenomenal athleticism that elevated his game until it didn't. Body parts started dying around 25, around the age of 25. I think that there were some issues with Cam that had more to do with the fact that he was getting pounded on plays. The referees didn't fucking protect the guy. I mean, and we've seen it. If you're an athletic quarterback, and I don't care what color you are, but if you're an athletic quarterback, but it probably, let me say the truth here. It happens more to black quarterbacks. If you're an athletic black quarterback, you're not going to get the calls. We've seen it with Justin. Just this past week against the Vikings, he's sliding and somebody fucking purposely elbows him to the helmet. No fucking call.
But on the flip side of that, I mean, I know he's biracial and partly white. Mahomes gets every call in the fucking world. You saw that's the one call that's went against Green Bay in the last 50 years where they called a roughing the passer on him when he was still in bounds.
I know,
you cannot
but that was
hit Patrick
close.
Mahomes. You cannot hit Patrick Mahomes. He is Tom Brady now to the league. They suck his dick 24/7. You cannot hit him.
What about the lack of penalty called on the Packers defender?
Oh, that's because it's in Green Bay. I mean, that's yeah. You still can't fuck with Mahomes. Like even the Packers. Like, come on, guys, that's Mahomes. That's our State Farm guy. You can't fuck with him. He's our hero. He's our guy that we are going to suck his dick until the moment he retires. The way we did Manning, the way we did Tom Brady. He is the face of the league now, and to a certain degree, we do that with Rodgers. So you can't hit him. They changed the rule when Minnesota hit Rodgers. You're not allowed to put your weight on him. What the fuck is that? That's what you do when you sack somebody. You fall on him. But so he's one of those guys. You cannot hit him. So I can't say your point is wrong, but once you reach a certain echelon and not everybody can reach it, regardless of color, they're going to start throwing flags for you. Because, again, Mahomes happens to be biracial. So what? He's on a team that they worship. And, oh, God, Taylor Swift and the whore's there and all this. I shouldn't call her whore. But she's at the game and Kelsey and all this bullshit. So they're going to give him every call that they can get. And I'm jealous of it because I would love to have Justin get all those calls.
You know, to me, I want to tell everybody listening and watching, Dan is like a brother to me, a really, really like family member. But
thank you for the shirt today.
Oh, you're welcome. Hope it fits.
Oh, it's great. It comes down to my ass. I love long stuff. When I'm 6'5", it's hard for me to get shirts that are long. So go ahead.
You know, I hate stuff that covers your ass, Dan. I tell you, he's like a family member to me. Anyway, but when he says this stuff about Mahomes, I get so pissed off at him.
Don't be, because you saw the Green Bay game. It happens. I'm not just making it up.
Mahomes, I just happened to like because I liked him at Texas Tech and wanted him to be a Bears player. And I just feel like the guy is really special quarterback. And a lot of people are saying, well, what he gets the calls or he's got all this great talent around him and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you guys are just not being fair to the guy.
I told you earlier, though, to be fair, I said earlier, Andy Reid doesn't win a Super Bowl without him.
J2K wants to know, why is Taylor Swift a whore?
That was a joke, but if you really want me to acknowledge it, like, she's had what? Again, I don't care. She's had like 77 breakup songs, and it's going to make a double live album when she and Kelsey break up, just to bitch about him. It was the John Mayer that says she's a liar and she's vindictive. So it's whatever.
Wow, John Mayer is fucking on trying to rehabilitate his image, so I wouldn't take anything he says with.
I was just joking.
Hey,
okay,
people
I'll
are just
be the
people.
asshole. I'll be an asshole and say I shouldn't have said that. All right.
All right.
But I did acknowledge that Mahomes is the reason KC's won a Super Bowl. I mean, Alex Smith was a good quarterback, but I don't think they win any Super Bowls without Mahomes, period. Mm-hmm. So it's not that I'm saying he isn't good. I'm completely envious of the preferential treatment that he gets.
Mm-hmm. If you like the show, please hit that thumbs up button if you're watching on YouTube, and just let people know that Dan and Aldo, and sometimes Johnny Zantucci are here on Tuesday nights.
Tooch is inactive tonight.
He is inactive.
He didn't make the trip. He's not. It's not like a Foreman in week 2 where we just don't want to use him. He's actually not feeling well.
Kelly
he's
says
he's got crabs.
He's got crabs. He got them from the Philippines, and they're still bothering him. I wonder why Fields can't just play maybe 7 good years and be great. Well, he could. Walter Payton played 7 years and he's great. I got posters of his signed jerseys. I love it. I think that's another.
You mean Sayers?
Sayers, that's what I meant. Yeah.
I'm sorry. My bad. I know you know the difference. I just didn't want anybody to be able to say he doesn't know what he's saying,
Yeah.
I'm coming to your defense, not to contradict you.
That would be true. I don't know what I'm saying.
You do.
All right. I want to continue with some more clips for us to react to. The next one that I'm going to play has to do with the Bears are right now. There was a graphic on one of the sports networks. I think it was Sunday Night Football. They had the Bears on the graphic when they're showing off.
In the hunt?
Yeah, they had them in the hunt.
All right, we're in the hunt. All right.
Like, hey, we're not mathematically out of it, so we're in the hunt. So in the WSCR 670 podcast, Take the North, Dan Wiederer and David Hall were talking about that. But I think this is really interesting, and I actually let it run a little longer than some of the other clips because I thought that what they were talking about was really fascinating. You look at
I like Hall, even if he hates me.
I know. He called me the other day and said, hey, I'd love to go on your show, but if Dan's going to be on there, no fucking way.
He hates me like I hate Steve Stenstrom.
But, these guys are saying that there's a bunch of teams who just have one or two more victories than the Bears, that the Bears could easily be those teams. But I'll let them talk about it.
6 or 5 and 7. That's what I would define as the pack. 3 of these teams are currently inside the playoff picture. The Atlanta Falcons leading the South at 6 and 6. Mm-hmm. The Vikings and the Packers in position to take those last 2 wildcard slots at 6 and 6. Mm-hmm. Also in that mix, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Buccaneers, the Saints. Okay, so that's the mix. And that mix is not that far away from where the Bears are currently. That is also not the target zone. And so I always reflect back on 2020 and what I call the 7th seed seduction with the expansion of the playoffs and the Bears fighting till the end to steal that 7th seed and then winning that wild card berth in a way that gave people inside the organization belief that they were a legitimate playoff team when we knew that they weren't, that they had only benefited from expanded NFL playoffs that awards mediocrity more than it ever has. And so my worry is in trying to reach the pack and then treating that as a desirable destination when getting close to annually competing for championships is 300 miles away. Now, look, that's the next stop for the Bears. They've got to get there. They've got to get closer. They got to get competitive. They are making strides in that direction. But I also just caution against the idea that, we're close to being in that weird mix of teams that's just mediocre enough to stay in the playoff race until the end of the season.
It's a good distinction to make because I think it speaks to how you define success. And I've always been one that probably too quickly looks at the parity in the league and finds that irresistible. And then you just want to be good enough to get in the tournament, or you just want to be good enough to win a division or sneak in the playoffs. And once you're there, anything can happen. When I wonder if that's a great approach to being, a productive franchise and maybe, profitable, and everyone in the NFL is profitable, but you know what I mean? It's like you can just seduce yourself and fool yourself into thinking that that's good enough. And I think what's happened at Hallis Hall over the years of struggle, right, that's become, almost akin to what, franchises like the Chiefs and the Patriots and, maybe even like the 49ers, that's getting
Eagles.
To the middle of the pack, and the Eagles. Yeah, that's a good example. Getting to the middle pack for the Bears is like getting to the Super Bowl for those franchises. And it's got to change you got to change the mindset, I think, to be able to sustain success. But that's a lot, and that's a lot to expect. So I do wonder what the approach will be after this season. Will they convince themselves that, boy, you rattled off 7 teams right now that are in the hunt, and the Bears can convince themselves, delude themselves maybe into thinking they're 2 plays away from being in the hunt because
they are.
One play against the Broncos, 1 play against the Lions, they're 6 and 6, and we're sitting here an entirely different conversation. But is that sustainable, and is that even legitimate? I don't know.
That's an entirely valid point, and I think probably the best way to sum up what you said there is good enough can no longer be good enough for the people at Hallis Hall, right? We need to be aiming higher. We need to be aiming for bigger goals, and it's not just to sneak into the playoffs every once in a while and say, we did it.
Okay, I've got so much to say, but Bob, I've got a comment on Bob.
Okay.
Did he see the 1998 Chicago Bears after Eric Kramer went on IR the second half of that year? If you thought Steve Stenstrom played well, then you and I disagree, Bob. That's all I can say. Maybe he had good footwork. I don't know. Maybe he had a good cock. Nothing else on that man was effective at all. And I've never, other than maybe Jonathan Quinn or Caleb Haney, just felt like we have no shot to win with this guy. None. No fucking help. Like, we're going to lose every game the rest of the way. And we did, except the game that James Allen ran for 200 yards on the Ravens. But with regards to David Haw.
Hold on a second. Go
ahead, please.
Just
go ahead.
For some context here.
Sure.
Bob wrote Steve Stenstrom. He had good footwork on April 11th, 1996, Bill Walsh said his fancy footwork, he praised his fancy footwork. So that's what you were referring to. I want to just say that for our audio podcast people.
Oh, yeah.
Who the fuck is Bob?
Well, again, I'm not trying to say Bob is wrong, because what we're saying is we're both talking opinion. Well, he's saying that's a fact that Walsh said that, and that's okay. I didn't know he said that, but I'm not saying that Bob is wrong if he's a fan of Stenstrom, but it's also my right to think that Steve Stenstrom was awful as the Bears quarterback. And of my lifetime, I thought he was the worst quarterback I've ever seen. And that includes Will Fuhrer, the lefty from Virginia Tech, or Jonathan Quinn. I just thought he was just goddamn awful. But if we can get it back on track with that video, I don't know why we're supposed to apologize for being in the playoff run. Like, remember before it was 5 playoff spots, and then it was 6. And for 30 years it was 6 spots, and they made it 7. I mean, I'm going to switch sports, but the NBA lets all kinds of teams in there, right? And remember, Dikembe Mutombo and the Nuggets were the 8th seed, and they knocked Seattle out. They were the number 1 seed. Golden State did it to Dallas the year after they lost to the Heat in the finals in 06. They came back with Baron Davis and knocked them out. They were the 8th seed. So it's an aberration. I get it that the low team like that wins, but sometimes it happens. The Pittsburgh Steelers were the low seed when they won the Super Bowl 40. The Giants, when they won 42 and they beat undefeated New England, were the lowest seed in the NFC. You can't apologize. I mean, if you're the Bears right now and you're at Eberflus and you're telling your guys, hey, if we get a couple more wins in there, we could be in the playoff hunt. How could you criticize him for that?
Mm-hmm.
Every team wants to make the playoffs, and anytime the Bears get in the hunt, you got Dan Wiederer coming up with his negativity again. It's not good to even be the 7th seed. Mm-hmm. Well, I beg to differ.
Yeah, but I do understand and approve of the message that the 7th seed isn't good enough. Yes, it's good enough this year, and maybe it's good enough next year. But we have to progress to a point where we're the 3rd seed, the 2nd seed, have a complete bye throughout the first week of the playoffs because we're the 1st seed. We have to get to that point. And that leads me to a topic that I wanted to talk about regarding Justin Fields' future. So how would you feel, Dan, because I look at Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is held up as this example. You got a young quarterback. He's playing outstanding football, blah, blah, blah. But then you look at who he's got around him. Tight end, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey as a running back. Those are fucking weapons that even Steve Stenstrom would play good quarterback with.
I don't know about that, but Steve Young would have.
That's for sure.
Steve Young become a Hall of Famer because of the weapons around him in San Francisco. In Tampa Bay, he was nothing.
So my question to you is, we should definitely keep Justin Fields and bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. and whoever the other big offensive weapon is, not a lineman. Fuck that. I want, Gale Sayers, Walter Payton. I want a great running back or a great tight end like the kid from Georgia, this Brock Bowers, and Marvin Harrison or one of the other electrifying. There's like a half dozen guys that play the wide receiver who look like these guys are going to be like the fucking Jamar Chases and Jalen Whittles, this new generation of receivers that are coming in. These guys are going to join them and be great receivers. So I would love to give Justin all the fucking weapons any quarterback would love. And so if it doesn't work with Justin, then we bring in a quarterback, maybe even a veteran quarterback, and the team is set. The defense is playing well. You got fucking Marvin Harrison Jr. and DJ Moore and Cole Kmet and a good running back, 2 or 3 good running backs. You're loaded. So what's wrong with that idea? What's wrong with proceeding with that idea? I asked you, Dan, and I asked the people in the chat.
I agree with you. I mean, you would think that that's the way to go. And everyone says Harrison Jr. is like this can't miss wide receiver. I don't watch enough college to know that, but assuming that he is, then if you're the number 1 spot and maybe you trade to the 2nd team, and pick up a draft pick, and they draft their quarterback, and then you get Harrison, and then the extra pick that you get out of it, maybe you get your fucking left tackle or your center then, and then you're on your way. You know, we're going to have to get some more help in the secondary because you have to think Eddie's going to be gone. You may need another corner if you don't re-sign Jalen. So, yeah, trading to get more picks, if you get the wide receiver too, I mean, it sounds like the way to go. But I'm just a dude on the microphone, so I can't. But I agree with you. If I could say one thing, though, on one of the chats, one of the comments, somebody brought up Craig Krenzel. And again, far be it for me to be a Craig Krenzel apologist, but he did win 3 straight games in 2004. He won 3 straight against Tennessee, San Francisco, and he beat Kurt Warner, who was a Giant, which ended up being the last game before Eli got his first start. That game was at New York, too.
I've blocked out that whole era.
Rick Meyer is definitely a valid point, and I want to point out, again, that John Buffone has a Rick Meyer jersey.
that he proudly wears on his show from time to time.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff there. You know, and somebody, I lost it. I should have started, but somebody said, I think it was C Sharp. There it is. He says, address the lines first, the offensive and defensive line. And hey, that's fine. That's fine. But find a way. You have to find an X receiver for DJ Moore, a big, tall, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". Marvin Harrison, by the way, is 6'4", 215 pounds, wide receiver who's a big target for Justin and has blazing speed like Harrison does. He's 4'4" is estimated. You got to find somebody, and there are other guys. But if you draft an offensive lineman or free agency, bring in an offensive lineman to give a superstar to the offensive line. Let's say we want to give up on Braxton Jones, which I don't think we should. But let's say we're going to draft one of these great left tackles that are coming out in the draft. And now you have Darnell Wright, and at left tackle, you have another rookie who are going to be with the team for the next 10 years. Eventually, they're going to be making a lot of fucking money, but you want that for your team. And then you get another pass rusher opposite Montez Sweat. To me, that's an immediate 7-8 wins. Now you just
they got to get another center, though.
I agree.
Maybe that guy from Miami that everybody's talking about, the free agent.
In fact, I think the center position right now is more important of an acquisition than the left tackle, because I still really like Braxton Jones. I think he's getting better and better. And now you need a center, whether it's a veteran or there's a couple of centers coming out that are considered, like plug and play guys. The kid from Georgia and a kid from Oregon, I believe. So, and they're like second, third round guys. So you don't have to waste any of the first rounders.
How's that guy doing that you liked? I think you played at Minnesota. There was the center. Is he balling this year? What's he doing?
He started off slow, started to play really well, and then got injured was the last that I saw. I'm forgetting what team he was with.
Yeah, his videos, he made me want to draft him too, personality-wise.
Great guy. Jay Grizz says, I would love to get Bowers too. Bowers is the tight end from Georgia. And I'm telling you, Dan, if you have Bowers and Cole Kmet as your 2 tight ends now.
Not with this offense. They don't target Kmet enough now.
You're right.
And Tongan gets nothing. He caught 50 passes for Green Bay. They don't even Getsy doesn't know how to utilize any of these weapons. So if you get all these weapons, you've got, even if it's sort of the same offense and you just let Getsy go and hire somebody else from the staff to keep continuity for Justin, God, Getsy wouldn't know what to do with all these weapons. He'd have no idea.
Yeah. The other thing is regarding the center position is Greg Gabriel pointed something out a couple of shows ago, and the most recent show is that he has seen teams convert guards to centers.
No, we're not going to make Jenkins a center now, too, are we?
I wouldn't do that. But what about Jatari Carter, who has played good at right guard and left guard? Maybe he's the answer. Maybe he's already on the roster.
It seemed to stunt Whitehair's growth when they kept moving him around.
Yeah, you're right about that. It
definitely hurt Kyle Long.
Yeah.
Even though Long didn't go to center, but when they started fucking around putting him at tackle, and then he got hurt, and he was never the same again.
Kyle Long has promised Greg Gabriel that he's going to come on Greg's podcast. So that should happen after the season when things slow down a little for Kyle Long. That'll be interesting.
He's been on your show.
Yeah, but in between then, I've called him a fucking idiot with an anger management problem because he's throwing his helmet at players and he's choking. No, that wasn't him. That was all recruits. All right. Anyway, let us see. What do I got now? All right. So we played that one of the NFC North. I really do think that that whole Dan Weeder, David Hall thing kind of pissed me off a little bit because, as you said, it's like, dude, you got to start somewhere. You got to get the 7th seed. I don't give a fuck if they make it in the 9th seed and to expand the playoffs. You got to start somewhere. And I think that this team is really, really close now, and those 2 losses against the Broncos and what was the other one?
The Lions.
The Lions. If we would be 6-6 if we didn't fuck those games up.
Could have beaten the Saints too.
Oh, yes. That's another one.
He kept turning the ball over, Bajent.
Yeah. And I almost hate myself for saying this because I've been there before. During the Dave Wannstedt years, I used to say that if it wasn't for this play, we'd be this record. Especially during the Wannstedt because I wanted so much for him to succeed.
Right.
Talking about hot coaching candidates, that was the fucking hot coaching candidate. Dave Wannstedt, defensive coordinator of the Super Bowl winning Dallas Cowboys. When we nailed him, I was fucking...
And the Giants wanted him. The Giants wanted him too. Like he had his choice between both gigs. And he took Chicago.
Yep. And so, that whole narrative, I didn't want to come here and so forth. Here's the fucking hottest candidate. He wanted to come here. We got him. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. So we need to fix that. All right, here, I got another one of what do you think about the Packers and what's going on over there? Apparently, the national media is falling in love with the Packers. I mean, this was fucking fast. They won 2 or 3 games in a row, and all of a sudden, the national media is in love with the Packers. Are you worried about the Green Bay Packers?
I always worry about the Packers. I always worry about the Packers. It doesn't matter because that's our rival, and they always beat us. But, I'm going to say this is a bitter Bears fan, but I believe it to be true, and someone can mock me if they like. If Justin Fields leaves an 8-minute drive down the field, Chris Collinsworth looks over at Mike. He's like, Mike, I don't know. The Bears still have the first pick in the draft, and they may have to, as soon as Jordan Love goes down the field, he's like, Mike, Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, and now you got Jordan Love, and I think the Packers are set. It's like, there's a fucking story that they're just spill. It's like, that's the story everybody says.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody immediately says he's the guy and starts bringing up Favre and bringing up Rodgers. But when Justin does it, they're like, I don't know. We're not sold yet. It just feels like that. Everyone says the same thing. It's almost propaganda.
The broadcasters in the league love to sell stars and legends and myths. The Green Bay Packers to the NFL, that's a mythical franchise. You want it to do well.
Soon as the game started, Mike, this is going to be Mahomes' first start at Lambeau. I'm doing a poor Collinsworth. Fuck it. But
it's not bad. Double M likes it.
Well, it's just like as soon as the game started, they're like, if you've never gone to Lambeau. If you've never gone to Lambeau, they never say that about Soldier Field.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fuck, I don't want to go to Lambeau. I'm never going to Lambeau. Never.
No.
They always say that about the Packers. Why should we go to Lambeau? Why?
Dan, if next week there was a Bears game we could go to, and the next week the Packers are playing, the Bears are playing in Green Bay, you wouldn't come here to Chicago, stay at my home
and watch it on TV with you? Sure.
No, go to both games, the one in Soldier and the one in Lambeau. You wouldn't do that?
I don't want to go to Lambeau Field. I just don't. I might go to Minneapolis or even Ford Field. I have no interest in going to Lambeau. I just don't. I mean, why put yourself through that vitriol? It'd be like going Again, I'm going to use a political statement, but I'll say it on both sides. It would be like going to the DNC, holding Republican propaganda, and vice versa. If you're going to the RNC and you're there holding Biden stuff, it would just be like you're in the middle of vitriol. Why put yourself there?
See, I've gone 4 times, 2 Bears games and 2 Packers someone else game, and neither time I had a problem. One time after the Packers came back and beat the Bears late in the game, I forgot what year. When we were headed to our car, some stupid fan came in and said, straight to my face. But aside from that, the people we sat with were all respectful. Nobody gave me a problem. So it wouldn't be the vitriol. What I loved about the experience is the history of Lambeau, what they've done with that stadium and in a nearby area. It's all really, it should be on every NFL fan's bucket list, even if you hate the Packers.
You sound like Collinsworth now.
Starting to get that little twang in my voice.
Well, it's just why is everyone always suck up to Green Bay?
Well, and I can understand it as a former TV producer, I can understand, trying to build up that myth and that legend. Mark says, I'm with you, Dan. I would end up getting into a fight. None of that. None of that. All right. So here's the clip.
Well, why wouldn't you say everyone should come to Chicago? Obviously, it's a better city. I'm talking about the meat. You never hear them say that. I know that Soldier Field looks however you want to say it looks, but inside, it's a great view watching the game. Great view watching the game at Soldier Field for the most part. I mean, they're never like, oh, this is historic. They never put it over. And the Bears always equal good ratings. They never put the Bears over. It's always you got to bend over backwards and take it up the ass for the Packers. And I'm just not going to go into that. I'm never going. Fuck them. I've never been in the state of Wisconsin, and I'm never going.
I think that the reason that it's that way is because the Bears are so fucking awful. I was not making friends in Green Bay. Were you following me? Stop it. And Jamal is absolutely right. The Bears are a sleeping giant. Our fan base is worldwide. All we need is some fucking winning seasons. And they'll be saying, come to the old Soldier Field before they tear it down. I'm telling you, it's a nice view. You can see the top of the skyscrapers. So I'm going to play this clip, and it has to do with the subject that we're talking about. This is Mullion Hall, and I think it's, if I remember correctly, I did this all the way this morning, and I've had a couple of beers since then. I think it's Troy Aikman talking about Jordan Love, his progression, and or actually, I think it's Olin Kreutz. It's Olin Kreutz.
Packers playing at Lambeau, beating the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and Jordan Love doing it again. He was consistent. He's been pretty efficient, and last night, he protected the football and he threw the touchdown passes, and he's really on that path, surprisingly to some of us. I just wonder what your biggest takeaway was on Sunday and how impressed you are by the Packers.
The Packers looked good last night. You can't argue, and they've looked good now. I think they won 4 of the last 5 games. Right, they're back to 6-6 now. I think they won their last 3. And anytime you beat the Chiefs, that's impressive. We all know Coach with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. That's not an easy win there, but when I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, man, they got the secret sauce, right? You got to sit for 2 years behind a Hall of Famer. The problem is you got to find a Hall of Famer. That's the hardest thing to do, and maybe not rushing these quarterbacks to play are the best things, but he sure looks like he's playing quarterback at a high level. They don't even have their left tackle, Bakhtiari, and they're still winning these games. Their running back, Aaron Jones, is out. They're still winning these games. The defense, with all their high draft picks, playing at a high level right now and really competing. They got that pass rush with Gary. And they just got a lot of guys, man. They got a lot of things that are winning football games right now. None more than Jordan Love, who's playing good quarterback. And something from a Chicago Bears guy, a guy who's lived in Illinois now since 1998. It's not the most comfortable feeling to watch that guy play quarterback at that level when you're watching him play. And those guys have turned it around from the way they looked early in the year because. I was part of the celebration. I was saying, man, they finally got a bad quarterback, right? We're happy about the fact that the Packers were going to struggle, and now all of a sudden they seem to have fixed that problem. And it's, in a division, young quarterback, really young football team, just the future of the Chicago Bears when you're looking at the overall picture there for a team that's, just not doing very well the last for a long time now here in Chicago, to see the Packers again back on a winning streak, back with a capable quarterback. Gosh, it just seems like if they had the secret sauce up there, and it's been forever, that they've had really good quarterback play.
Looked like Mully was having some chest pain there at the end of that.
Was that Mike Mulligan? I kept thinking, who is that? It didn't look like him to me.
No, it's Mike Mulligan and David Hall on the right. But what you think about what Olin was saying? Because it is a fucking scary proposition. What if Jordan Love turns out to be another all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber quarterback?
Don't give a shit, just as long as we beat him. You know, it's like if he's great,
well said.
but
Well
the
said.
Bears are like find a way to just control the rivalry again, then let them have a good quarterback. Just as long as we don't get just beaten every time the way we did for the most part for 30 years. I don't care if he's good otherwise. I don't have any heat with Jordan Love yet. I have no reason to dislike him other than his uniform. Like, I dislike Rodgers like he stole from me. I dislike Favre like he stole from me.
Why do you dislike Mahomes like that, though?
Because I'm so jealous of all the preferential treatment that he gets. And when you get 90% of the calls, that's why he can't complain about the lack of PI at the end of the game. Like I told you, you can't bite the hand that feeds when the officials constantly help you. So it's like there's a reason they want KC in the primetime. How many primetime games has Kansas City been in this year? It feels like 12. But,
yeah, well, they're the defending champs, right?
well, that's what I'm saying. They're going to push him, and they're going to help him every step of the way, and I resent it. Pure envy. I concur.
Thank you, Joe. He says we're on a roll tonight. You know why? It's because we're worried about the Tooch. Where are you, Tooch? You know, I actually when I read that message from you saying Tooch is inactive tonight, I actually got nervous. I'm like, holy shit, how are we going to fill that 9 o'clock hour without his Bears State of Affairs? We haven't done a solo show, just the two of us, for a while now, right?
It's gone fine, I think.
I think we're getting good reviews. So you know, we got 1 thumbs up according to my thumbs up counter. All right.
You know who Molly looked like in that clip to me? I can't think of the guy's name. It's one of those fuckers that works for WFAN.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Fresh, whatever his name is. That's what.
Yeah, well, the guy that used to do a show with somebody else.
Yeah. He looks like one of those New York radio guys to me.
He does. Towards the end of the clip, he started grabbing his chest. I was wondering if he was having some kind of a problem.
That's the way I feel. I'm like Ditka 88 right now over my neck. I think I'm gonna have a heart attack here. Jesus. Sweating over my fucking thing on the back of my neck.
You'll be fine, man.
Well, Ditka only missed 1 game. So
that's right.
I gotta be in Cleveland the week after, regardless if I'm sick or not.
I got one more clip, and then I'm going to play a series of commercials from some of the podcasts that we know and love, or maybe we don't know, and what we should know and love them. But first, I want to play this clip. This is oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Pat the Designer. Sorry, Pat. Pat the Designer hosts a ESPN podcast called the Chicago Bears Podcast, and he
does the post game after the games.
Yes. Very talented guy. Really enjoy his work. I wish I could catch it more often. But I caught this clip of him talking with Lance Briggs about bad football. And I think I want to talk with you about this, Dan, afterwards, because I have seen a proliferation of what is really some fucked up football throughout the NFL.
There's a lot of bad football out there. There's a lot of good football as well now. The good teams are starting to separate themselves. But
Tom Brady just recently talked about the mediocrity in the league now, and how talent, and coaching has really taken a step back, and at this time of the year, majority of the team should be at their sharpest.
Yeah.
We shouldn't see undisciplined games at the level that we're seeing it all around the league.
Yeah.
So that does lead me to believe a lot of things that he's saying is true. Coaching is taking a hit. Our league is taking a hit, in a lot of ways from being able to hit, you know, how they officiate pass interference, how they officiate a lot of things, you know, how it's all the new ruling system, the way it's dealt out. It's interesting. It's interesting that this far into the league, into the season, there's so much undisciplined play.
Yeah. And to me, I think there is a part of it that is on the NFL as well, though, because I mean, going into every single game, you never know what you're getting from these referee crews or what their focal point is. Like the final play last night, where to me, clear PI on both shots downfield, but you call PI on those earlier in the game. It's like, so, okay, like if the refs give you consistency, if the league gives you consistency,
make your calls right down the line. Keep
your
calls right down the line. Don't call this one this time and then the same play, similar play, you call it this way. You're like, let's keep them this way, baby.
I think that makes it very hard. Now it's not like it's something new, right? Y'all dealt with referees like that and when you played as well, but like I feel like it makes it that much harder to try and go out there and say, okay, we know he's gonna call this. We can't make this mistake, and then you don't make that mistake, and then they call it that time, and it's like, oh wait a minute, dog, you didn't do that 2 plays ago. What happened?
Well, I wouldn't play it that way. I wouldn't coach it that way either. I would just say, listen, we have to have a short memory, you know, because the way that the game is officiated now, the way that the rules have changed now, we're going to play this game at 100 miles an hour. So the chances of us getting a penalty or something happening, whatever it is, we have to reload, come back the next play, forget about that last play, and come out and ready to make another play.
Dan, you are really the barroom historian, and I would put up your knowledge of football, particularly football, since the 1980s, maybe 70s on. So you've looked at lots of DVDs of teams outside of Chicago playing big games and so forth. How would you compare the quality of football from yesteryear to the quality of football we're seeing in the NFL now?
I'm not going to say anything that's different than anything they just said. Although it is weird that Pat, the designer, can criticize eras of football. And I like him, but he was born in like 95. I mean, what era did he watch? I mean, this is his era. You know, I mean, like he's like, football was much better when I was 5.
Maybe
this is his era, you know? But
yeah, I guess.
It feels like the officials are inconsistent and constantly blowing games. Far be it for me to take up for the Saints because I hate them and they cheated way back when Sean Payton was coach, you know, to get in the Super Bowl. But remember that play the Rams got into the Super Bowl with and ended up making a PI. You could challenge PI for 1 year because of how bad that Saints championship game ended. And then they took it away again. And again, if you're the Bears against whomever, and you get off the field, you're like, fuck, incomplete. They're going to throw a flag depending on who the other team is. If you're Kansas City and you're Mahomes and you throw an incomplete pass, you start whining, they throw the flag for you. You can say, I know normally I feel like you would be like, are you saying there's a conspiracy? Like, I'm not saying that people get together in a room and say we're going to cheat today, but I think they know what the mandate is, and they help the good teams, and they always fuck the bad teams. And they steal games, man.
Yeah, I think that there is some implicit bias by the part of officials. I've heard officials talk about it themselves. You know, you give Michael Jordan, you give, Brett Favre the benefit of the doubt because these guys have accomplished so much.
And that's why they don't need it, because like I again, we've argued so many times, not like viciously at each other, but I told you I didn't like Utah at all, but I thought the Russell play was an offensive foul. And in my opinion, because Jordan is so great, or was so great in 1998, he doesn't need that call. So the one time he does push off like that, you do call it, because 9 out of 10 times he's going to beat him straight up anyway. So you don't give him an advantage to beat him, like his natural talent's going to beat him 90% of the time to begin with. So why do you have to give him the one time Russell maybe shuts him down, you allow him to get pushed on the floor and you don't call it? But again, that was in Utah. Malone had the ball stolen from him, so they had a shot. I mean, they put themselves in that predicament.
Very true. Are you surprised at how Lance Briggs is aging? There's a few comments about that.
Oh, you breathe the gray?
Yeah.
I mean, he just doesn't color his hair, I guess. I mean, versus Forte was making his like super black, where you could tell he was dyeing his beard and stuff when he was working on that. So it doesn't bother me. I mean, like Lance was a rookie in 2003. So he's probably what, 45, 46 now? I mean, eventually you go gray, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Charles Woodson's rocking the gray. It doesn't seem to bother him.
No, not at all. The one thing that there's two things about Briggs that I'd like to share. Number one is he has gotten a little chunky, and he actually started getting chunky in his last few years in the league. Don't you think?
Yeah, in 13, definitely, because he was on IR and he didn't expect to get brought off of it.
Yeah.
And when we needed him, that's that game Philly beat us like 51-3 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
And that Sunday night where we could have clinched the playoff berth.
Mr. Shorty says you dye your hair. Is that true?
I do color my hair. I didn't say anything. I didn't criticize Forte or Briggs for either dyeing or not dyeing.
That's right.
But I don't have gray yet, per se. I don't.
You just do it for what reason?
Because I've told you many times, not that anybody cares about this, but like my dad and his dad, all of them had really dark skin and dark hair and brown eyes, but my grandmother had red hair and blue eyes. And so I always felt like I didn't even look like my family. You know what I mean? So I started dyeing my hair darker, like, because I wanted to look like my dad.
Ah, okay. Well, that's beautiful.
My hair was medium brown anyway, but my mom's hair was dark brown. But somewhere, like I said, my great grandma and my grandma were both redheads, so it blends in to make me a mutt,
That's funny. Well, regarding the state of the quality of football, I agree. It has gotten worse. But what really struck me about the comments that Lance made, and he attributed them to Tom Brady, but he feels the same way, is the quality of coaching. That, I believe, is true. That is why we are seeing some of the bad football. It's coaches who have not dealt with the new rules regarding CBA and the reduced practice time. We all can blame the CBA, and we do, and I have. It's because the tackling is terrible because they're not hitting as much as they used to. Fucking CBA. But there are things that coaches can do, innovative coaches can do, to get around that and to get the best tackling they can out of their players. There are offenses that can be run effectively if you know the learning capabilities of your players, how they like to learn. Are they audible listeners? Do they prefer to learn audibly or visually or talk? Whatever. I don't think there's enough coaches who pay attention to these things and implement them in the proper way.
It's hard for me to disagree with. Sorry to step on you. So it's hard for me to disagree with Lance Briggs or Tom Brady because I've never stepped on a professional football field and played. But I think if you're asking just for an opinion, from a fan's perspective, it feels like part of the problem, even with the defense, is all the rules seem to go against them. And if they have a really good tackle, it could just be their shoulder. They're still going to draw a flag, though. So you have to, at all times on defense, you have to worry about how are they going to call a fucking bullshit penalty on me. And all the rules help the offense, and the officials help the offense, especially if you're playing someone like Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers. If you get off the field, you're like, oh, man, we knocked the ball down. They're going to call illegal contact or PI or roughing the passer. So if you're a defensive guy, you can't really – how can you ever feel like you're confident enough to just play? You always have to worry that they're going to throw a penalty regardless of what I do. If they want to give the Chiefs another first down, they're going to. Again, like we saw the play a few weeks ago, Dexter, when he came down. How is that roughing the passer? It wasn't. It was not roughing the passer. That's the Aaron Rodgers call, though, a few years ago when he got sacked in Minnesota and got hurt. They're like, oh, we got to change the rule. You can't, the defensive player is not allowed to like fall down on top of him, too. But they've been doing it like that for 50 years, but you can't do that now.
Dan, to your point about, the rules favoring the defense,
against the defense.
Scoring is down in the National Football League this year. I mean, it's like dramatically down, like 2 or 3 points. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you factor in, how many games and blah, blah, blah.
Well, you got Tim Boyle playing in New York.
That's a bigger problem. No shit. All right. I didn't realize that we were already 10 minutes past the hour. So I want to switch subjects here quickly. I want to do a shout out to a lot of our friends. A couple of them are in the chat room. People who've created their own podcast networks, people who have been on the show, we've talked to, we love, are friends of ours, are going to be friends of ours, and give them a shout out. And so I asked them to submit some commercials to me so that I can run on the show. And so for this first time, in the future, I'll sprinkle them in sporadically, but for this first time, I wanted to play them back to back and give a general acknowledgement. But this won't be the first time. And if they want to update their commercials and other podcast networks want to submit a commercial, I'd be happy to show it here in the barroom. Our philosophy is we're all part of the Bears community and we should all be able to get along and promote one another. And if you don't want to want a promotion from us or don't want to promote us, that's fine too. As long as we all treat each other respectfully, we should do that. I know when we were the Bears Bar Room, we had on some occasions where we crossed that divide, and I'm not happy about that, but that's stuff that I approved in the past, and so that's on me. But anyway, here's some podcast commercials from some of our friends.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a quarterback in the NFL? I have. The quarterback position is arguably the most difficult position in all of sports due to its physical and mental nature. Join me by watching me on this channel on my journey to become an NFL quarterback.
The best Chicago Bears content anywhere. Catch Nomad live pregame 1 hour prior to kickoff and Nomad at night postgame, and every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Central on all the most popular streaming platforms, and only on the Nomad Network.
Very nice to all of you. Dan, you got a favorite from one of those 4 commercials outside of the one that you're on?
I mean, they're all good.
Yeah, they're all really good.
If I'm being critical, and I don't mean to be, the lady that we've had on the show,
Alexis,
I would want her to expand on that a little farther. Like, how's she going to show us that? Like, I think she needed another 30 seconds.
Yeah, I agree. And she's actually making another commercial for us with some more details. So we'll be running that when I get it. But to fill in the blanks there, on her YouTube channel called Alexis Jade, she has started a podcast series on her adventure to become an NFL quarterback, which is a great fucking idea. I wish I would have thought of it. And I haven't watched any of the episodes yet, but I think there's 2 or 3 that have been produced already. So I'm anxious to take a look at those. And we'll be talking more about that because she'll be a guest on, I'm hoping, in the future. We'll talk about that and her other podcast, which is called Chicago, which is, again, a very fucking clever name.
I agree.
What'd you think of Swifty's commercial? Did you like that one?
I did. I just was thinking Nomad when you asked me that. So,
go ahead. Start with Nomad.
Nomad's production was good. I liked it. I liked the music. The music it was going on with it. I liked his spot.
Yeah, and that narrator, I mean, that guy must have had balls the size of Hallis Hall. It's like, what the fuck? But it is totally in Nomad's character, right? For his commercial to say, we're the fucking best. You don't need anybody else. We're the fucking best. I love that about Nomad. He is so confident in his takes and stuff. That in fact, I think it was C Sharp that created. C Sharp was the voice. I think it's Charles Washington. C Sharp, correct me if I'm wrong. That's your real name is Charles Washington. He produced the spot for Nomad, and he's saying those other balls. But it's a great spot, and I tune into their show, the on-demand portions, just to get a taste of what they're doing, and they do excellent work. Swifty, if you're not following Swifty, like his commercial says, almost 20,000 subscribers, and he is just straight with breaking news. He covered the Eric Bieniemy thing today. He's just on top of stuff. So any thoughts on his commercial, Dan?
God, I don't want to seem like a dick towards Swifty because I have no hostility or malice. The commercial didn't stand out to me, and I don't mean that negatively. I swear to God, I don't. If you ask me to say what it said, I don't know. I retained Nomads because the music, and again, maybe it's just the FM DJ in me. It caught my attention. The other Dan's caught me because I laugh anytime he has his facial expressions in some of those photos. I laugh with him, not at him. But I just think, oh man, he's fucking fun, you know. And the lady, she stood out because, okay, how's she going to tell me to be a quarterback? And I think the Swifty one just kind of got lost in the shuffle to me. If I'm really being a focus group, I'm not trying to be negative toward him at all.
Trust me, you're not, because he didn't do the commercial. I did.
Well, I'm not being negative toward you either.
No, it's fine. That's good commentary. That's good. I wrote him and say, listen, can you on short notice do a commercial for me? He goes, yeah, what are you looking for? And then I said, you know what? I'll just fucking do something for him. If he likes it, then I'll run it. And I put that together.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be critical of you or anybody else specific.
Dude, you can be critical of me. Just don't make fun of the size of my penis, okay?
It wasn't bad. It just didn't stand out to me. That's
all right. I'm gonna read to it. All right, take it easy.
All right.
All right. And then you commented on Bears Country Podcast. I thought theirs was very, very well done. It covered everything that they cover, and excellent job. And I think he says he's doing another one. It is Chris Washington. I hope I got that right. So great job, Nomad. Great job, Bears Country Productions. Not so good a job, Swifty. I'll do better next time.
I'm sorry. I feel like an asshole.
Don't. I love you, man. I love you. This makes me laugh. You're bringing. Wait a minute. Cliff says penis wasn't bad, just didn't stand out. All right. One last thing I want to talk about in the 15 minutes I have with you, Dan. And when you leave me like this at 10:30, you really know that it gives me great depression, right? I thought Michael Warburton is a actor who, if you're not following him on Twitter or X, you really should, if you love movies like Dan and I do, because he puts up scenes from great movies and comments on them. He'll put up trailers, facts and stuff. And some days he's very active and he puts out great stuff. Well, he put out a trailer for a movie that I thought was just recently released, but I learned later that it was released back in 2009. I want to show you the trailer, and then Dan and I are going to talk about the actor that the trailer is talking about.
This was a very unique actor.
He taught me about asking questions and not having to answer them. That's the beauty.
Whether it was intuition or he was consciously doing it, I don't really know.
Brando, Pacino, Duvall, and he stood toe-to-toe with those guys.
The great thing about Cazale is he never, ever loses sight of who that character is.
He was real, and we could react, and there was no forced kind of acting from John.
Even in the funniest characters that he played, there was always something tragic in it. Even in the most tragic characters, there was always something very funny.
He's a really diligent person. He works extremely hard.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
Come to Las Vegas and talk to a man like Bolt Green like that!
Did you say you could get away with me? Kill us.
What the hell is that supposed to be? This is this. I'm your older brother, Mike, and I was stepped over!
Dad, tell me why you love that trailer and want to see this movie.
I bought it on eBay a few hours ago. When you told me it wasn't on Max, I was like, yeah, that'll be great. And then you're like, holy shit, it's from 2009. Like, what? How did I miss this? The myth of this guy, because he got sick, like it says, he did 5 movies. So he does Godfather in 72, The Conversation is 73, Dog Day Afternoon 75. What's other than Deer Hunter? What else am I missing?
Conversation, did you say?
Oh, Godfather 2. Godfather 2.
Oh, yeah.
So he goes Godfather, then The Conversation, then Godfather 2, then Dog Day, and then The Deer Hunter. So he dies really early, and he was so sick while they're doing The Deer Hunter that they wanted to replace him. And De Niro was so adamant that he paid his salary to keep him on the film. And I thought, man, Robert De Niro is somebody who's historically, according to most people, an asshole who cares about himself and himself only. Yeah. So how good was this guy for De Niro to be like, I'll pay his fucking salary. That's how great he is. Like, and it was fucking Meryl Streep. Like, not that I, think Meryl Streep's hot or something, but she's got a lot of, she's an actress with Academy Awards. So the guy's an MVP is what I'm saying, a supporting acting MVP. And I always wanted to know more about him because he and Robert Shaw both died around the same time too, like late 78, somewhere through there. Right. So I did not know this existed. So yeah, I do want to see it. And it's tragic that he died so, suddenly, but I'd like to hear more about that. And I'll ask you this before getting your comments on it. I was talking to my friend Justin, who I work with here, and he told me, he said, you're the only other person I know that thinks Godfather 1 is better than 2. This is he talking to me. And he asked me why I thought that. And I said, well, for one, Brando dying in front of the grandson, it's hard, that pure emotion. Oh my God, that's incredible. Like in a negative but sad, poignant way. So you're losing Sonny, right? You're losing Sonny, you're losing Brando, and Pacino's not very likable in part 2. You can relate to him in the first one. He's pushed in this role. He doesn't want it. And you feel how nervous he was in the subway when he's got to commit the murder, or the restaurant, but you hear the subway and you see his eyes and his jaw, and it's so captivating. But in part 2, the shit he does to Kay at the end, like, what an asshole. And the Fredo thing, that's my question. Like, it even said it in the trailer. What did Fredo do? I can't really define what Fredo did that was so double-crossing worthy of his death.
He told, first of all, when Al Pacino when Michael Corleone went to Florida, Fredo defended Johnny, what's his name, the guy with the glasses and stuff. You don't come to Vegas and talk to what's his name that way.
Yeah, when he got shot in the eye later, right?
Right.
Mo Green.
Mo Green. Thank you.
Mo
Thank
Green.
you. Love that name too. And then when they're at that club, Fredo had told Michael, we don't hang around much or something like that. And then Fredo is telling somebody, and Michael overhears Fredo saying, "Yeah, Mo brought me here a while ago. We've been back a number of times," something like that. I'm paraphrasing, and that's when Michael realizes this motherfucker is plotting with Mo. And
so you think he wanted to assassinate Pacino?
I don't think it was assassination. It was to get that deal done in Cuba done in favor of.
Well, the Batista regime is fading there, and obviously Castro's taking over at the climax of that scene when they're New Year's Eve '59 when they're there.
Mm-hmm.
I never understood what Fredo did that was so worthy of killing him in the fucking boat fishing.
Yeah, I think it was just simply betrayal. It was betrayal, and in the family, you just don't fucking do.
But didn't Pacino jettison him? Like, you know, and like it's one thing he said he skipped me over, and they all thought he was weak.
Sent him to Vegas. Right?
Yeah, but he's the one that sent him out, and then you can't expect him to not make relationships with the people that you send him to. I felt like Al. I love Al as an actor. Love him as an actor. I felt like I could relate to his character in part 1 and in 3, because in 3 he's an old man who has all these regrets, and you know things didn't go the way he wanted them to. But in part 2, he's a fucking ruthless dick, and it's hard. He's the bad guy in part 2 in my eyes.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. It had sucked him in to the point where he became the devil. And there's no doubt about it. And I think that's the moral archetype, archetype's not the right word, but the moral theme of the story is just getting sucked in. His father didn't want him to be a part of the business, and he gets sucked in, and he's fucking just as bad, if not worse, than his father was. And then in part 3, you know, he wants to get out. He keep trying. They keep sucking me in.
But he has regret over Fredo too. I mean, in that regard.
Right.
But I think part 1's better than 2 because I think Al is unlikable in part 2, and you're missing Sonny and you're missing Brando or Vito. So I feel like that part 1 is better than 2, in spite of the good backstory with De Niro.
I got to tell you something, because it's on Showtime. Godfather 1, 2, and 3. Mario Puzo's Godfather.
You need to
3.
watch the re-edit of part 3, by the way. If you have,
I do need to see that. But the other day I watched Godfather 1, and I had smoked a little bit of this. It's called Dog Walkers.
Are they a sponsor?
They should be. They should be. I spent enough money on them. And they're called dog walkers because they're half the size of a regular joint. And when you're walking the dog, you can smoke a whole one. So I'm a lightweight now. I fucking take one toke and I'm like seeing things and shit. So I'm watching The Godfather 1, and all of a sudden I start laughing at Marlon Brando's performance, because he's got, like, they say that they put like wet tissue down his cheeks to give him that look. And so I'm starting to see how ludicrous that is. It's like, dude, why don't you just fucking act? Why are you putting these wads, and I knew that I was being stupid because I was high, but it just became kind of this. The whole film felt like really flimsy in the acting and the storyline and stuff.
You were stoned. That's all. You were stoned. It's a good movie. It's a good movie.
I know it is. And Mr. Mayhem is right. Serpico is a good movie. I've seen it 10 or 15 times. And I am a fan of Carlito's Way. Absolutely. All right. Before, because I got 7 minutes with Dan, I asked him, send me a list of some of the supporting actors, like sort of John Cahill types, guys that are supporting actors.
This was a lot harder than I thought, by the way.
I figured, because usually you come up with like 15 names right away. You needed some time to think. And so Dan, the first name that he came up with was, well, I won't say it was the first name, but one of the most impressive names for me anyway, because I totally agree. This guy, Christoph Waltz, is an outstanding fucking actor. Tell me why he's on your list.
Yeah, he's such a good actor in Inglourious Bastards. He's the lead executioner for the Nazis, but he does it with some pizzazz. Like, you almost find him not rooting for him, because obviously, he's got these little idiosyncrasies. He likes the milk, It's just, I don't know. He's just very good at being the villain. And then on the flip side, pardon me, in Django, he's actually the good guy in some ways. He's like, telling Django that like, hey, I'll give you your freedom. Slavery's bullshit. So, but he plays both roles. He won Best Supporting Actor for both of them. He was great in both instances.
Yeah, I thought it was a great choice. His accent is fantastic. I just think this guy, I believe Quentin Tarantino, from the Hollywood perspective, discovered him. I don't think he was in a Hollywood film before Quentin found him, and it's just tremendous fine. This guy is phenomenal. Another guy on your list was Michael Imperioli. Oh, that's a bad quality picture. I apologize, Michael. But tell me why you had him on your list.
Oh man, he's again Sopranos. He's in some ways, I know everyone loves James Gandolfini. In some ways, I like Christopher as much as Tony, and I was pissed that, like, if I was rewriting any aspect of The Sopranos, I say that Christopher and Adriana leave and flip. Like, I hated the scene when Gandolfini killed him. Fucking hated it. He's just trying to get one of the songs on the Departed soundtrack, and he crashes, and then he cowardly holds his nose where he makes him suffocate on his blood. Yeah, I hated that, and I hated Adriana's death too with Silvio. But he's solid, man. I liked him on that HBO show that you got me watching, where he's at that, like, I forget what it's called, but Aubrey Plaza was in it too. It was so fucking
White Lotus, is it?
Yeah. I thought it was great, man. I thought he's solid on there. He he's a good recurring person. He's in a lot of early like Spike Lee films. He was in Goodfellas. I mean, he's a really good actor.
He played Spider in Goodfellas, and he had the nerve to talk back to Joe Pesci, and that didn't end up well for his character. The very first name you came up with was very impressive, John Turturro.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal. Again, he's in a lot of Spike Lee films too. And a lot of times he's like the shitty fucking pervert. Like he was a rapist on Jodie Foster in that one movie. What was that called? Five Corners. He tried to rape Jodie Foster, and then he gets out of jail, and then he kills his own mom, and he's trying to kill her too. He's good at just playing the unredeemable asshole. But then he's also like the everyman who's looking out for himself and to live and die in LA. He gets popped. He's like, all right, you're pinched. You got to help me now. Like I care about me now, but he's also can play the good guy. Yeah. And the Jungle Fever, when he's not prejudiced and he's trying to date the lady that always comes in the diner. And he gets his ass kicked for it by his own people, but at the end of it, it's implied that she takes him in and they're going to be together. I think he's just that show, The Night Of. Ironically, we mentioned James Gandolfini. If you never saw that, James Gandolfini was going to play that role, but he died.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was going to be the attorney with the eczema, which Turturro ended up being. And dare I say, Turturro, I'm not going to say made me forget about Gandolfini because I love James Gandolfini, but Turturro was fabulous in it. He's just a really good, unheralded actor. That was the first name I threw to you because I thought, okay, you meant supporting actor, and I took it as a guy that deserves more credit than he gets.
Yes. Well, and you could take it either way. There's a lot of times, a lot of these supporting actors, guys who are the whole old Hollywood, they used to call them character actors. I always thought, why don't they give that guy a leading role shot? And then over time, I've learned, he did get a leading role shot, and it was fucking terrible. But John Turturro can pull it off. He can be a character actor, a supporting actor, and he can be a lead actor, and he can pull it off. He is very, very special. Your list is special too. Here's another name that I loved. Of course, Carl Weathers. This guy, a lot of people think of him simply as Apollo Creed, but his comedic talents, his action hero talents, and then that picture on the upper right-hand corner is him as a police commissioner in some TV show. Why do you love Carl Weathers?
In The Heat of the Night, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, well, first off, it's cool that Carl Weathers played with Schwarzenegger and Stallone in their primes.
Yeah.
You know, they wasn't in one of these like Expendable Part 12 or whatever. He's in Predator. Yeah, Action Jackson's another good film, and he helps the Rocky films. I've said this before, like for you being me or any of us, for us to buy Stallone winning in Rocky 2, the only way you can buy it is if you buy into Carl Weathers' character, because he's up on points. He's won like 12 of the 14 rounds. The only thing that you can buy, the reason he's fighting Stallone's fight, giving him the chance to win, is because you know that he's hurt by people taunting his kids in school and saying that he was a fraud and that the fight was fixed. And he's standing up for his honor, and he's got to prove that he can win. And this guy is a bum. He doesn't want to win. He has to win. His whole livelihood's on the line. Kind of like Frazier felt against Ali in the first one. Although, ironically, Carl Weathers is sort of playing a derivative of Ali as Apollo Creed, but he feels like everything's on the line. He's got to knock him out. He can't be happy with winning on points like the split decision the first time. If you don't have the good acting in that, you just feel like, oh, it's bullshit. They're going to let Rocky win just because it's Rocky. But you understood his character, and that's a credit to Carl Weathers. And then he's such a fucking monster that by the time he's in Predator with Schwarzenegger, he's not as tall as a man is, Arnold, but he's got arms as big as Arnold. Like he can be the impressive bodybuilder. He can be the arrogant asshole. But then as Rocky progresses, he becomes the protagonist to help Stallone get over the insecurities of losing to Clubber. So yeah, he plays the roles so effectively. And then, like you show him in Happy Gilmore there with Sandler.
I love the way you broke down Carl Weathers' career and his role as Apollo Creed. It's super. And again, that's the shot of him looking at his hand. That was from Happy Gilmore. I totally forgot about that. Yeah. That he loses his hand
by an alligator.
He pulls that off so well. Yeah. All right, I know you gotta go. I want to get the last couple in. Probably, well, I would say this guy here really impressed the fuck out of me when you pulled this, because I was like, who? And then
Fritz
I had
Weaver?
to look him. No, this guy.
Oh, he's in so many fucking things. He's
yes!
in like he was the Zodiac in Zodiac. Yes! That's the top one. He's in American Horror Stories and all these shows that I watch as small characters. I think maybe Fargo. He's been around.
This guy is the epitome. Lynch. This guy is the epitome of the question, the answer to the question. This guy is so perfect. Here's a guy that I didn't know his name. You said John Carroll Lynch. I'm like, who the fuck is that? And then when I saw his picture, I go, holy shit! Yes, this guy is perfect.
And he overcome like I remember Ed Harris when he got his first break. I think it was The Abyss. The story was we don't know if we can put him in that role because he's bald. Like Hollywood was that frivolous, and this guy John Carroll Lynch has made his whole life despite having a horseshoe bald spot. Yeah, I mean he's been awesome. It just appears in shows. He's never the guy, but he's usually a big character. And like I said, American Horror Story, he was awesome. Let's see what else has he done that I really like. Been a bunch of American Horror Stories.
The clown character in American Horror Story, wasn't it Twisty the Clown, which is a great fucking
and then they give his ruthlessness makes him soft later. You make him sort of identified as almost a good guy before the series is over.
Yeah, excellent.
He was in Veep with Julie Louis-Dreyfus.
Yep, that's right. He had a big role.
The Americans, that's what I was thinking of. He was in The Americans as well. Love The Americans. And that movie Zodiac, I really love it. I just feel like he doesn't have Hollywood looks, but he pulls it off, and you believe that he's a good actor because he is.
Zach says that he's you in 5
I don't know. I mean, knock on wood, I don't have any hair loss. So.
Oh man, I do. but that's a different story. Last one that you sent me was, well, actually, you sent me two others. James Woods, I didn't.
We've talked a lot about James.
Yeah, so Fritz Weaver is definitely a good name. That picture on the left there on the screen was that Twilight Zone episode that he did, which is one of the classics.
Right.
Do you remember the two other roles from the photographs on there?
Not right off. When I think of Fritz Weaver, I think of like Black Sunday. He was in a horror film that I love too called Creep Show. Like you said, he was in a lot of Twilight Zone. But Black Sunday is the one that stuck out to me. But yeah, Fritz is in a lot of like late 70s, early stuff and supporting roles and just sort of pops up. And he's just so good in everything that I've seen him in, you know? Demon Seed. I watched that one recently. I loved it.
Demon Seed, yes.
Did you said you fell asleep on it, right?
I did, but I got to watch it again. And
that Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman. Marathon Man.
He's in Marathon Man too. Yeah. So you let me know when you got to go.
I got to go now, unfortunately. Okay. I got to piss too, and I got to go and get over to work. But yeah, if you look at his just his TV history and his movies, the dude was everywhere. He was such a good actor.
Yeah, Fritz Weaver, definitely a good actor. Was he also in Scanners? Or no, he was in some David Cronenberg movie.
I'm not sure right off. Unfortunately, I got to go. I love the show, Aldo. Thank you for the shirt. I hope your arm's getting better, and please hope that my neck is going to be okay on the spot of my neck.
I'll be praying. I know you're atheist, but I'll be praying.
Hey, I appreciate the prayers. I could be wrong. Bring them in, and go Bears, go Justin Fields.
Love you, brother. Take care.
All right, take care. Love you too.
That is Dan Aguirre, my man. All right, I didn't have time to share my names. Let me see. I did a couple of visuals for people who I thought were great character actors, and the first name that came to mind was Cuba Gooding. I mean, when I first saw him, in the John Singleton movie. What the hell is the name of it? Somebody help me in the chat. It was like John Singleton was an African-American director, and while he was in college, he did a movie that all the critics were going wild over. I frankly didn't like the movie as much as the critics did because I lived that life of gangbangers and the ghetto, and I did student movies similar to that, and I felt like, man, I wish I had gone to USC. I would have produced my own gang movie. But when I saw Cuba Gooding in Jerry Maguire, he plays the wide receiver from the Cardinals who is desperately looking for a big fat contract, and Regina King is his wife, and he comes up with the famous line, "Show me the money." I thought he totally outshined Tom Cruise in that movie. He was fucking fabulous. Cuba Gooding to me is a guy who I would love. Rod Tidwell, thank you, AC. He's definitely a guy who I would love to know more about his life. There were stories that he went through a lull in his career. He made some bad decisions on what roles to take and so forth. But nothing will take away the fact that he's a tremendous actor, has acted in tremendous films. His Academy Award speech when he got the Best Supporting Actor Award for Cuba. See, here it is. Muck Muck says, Cuba Gooding Jr. has been blackballed in the industry because he's a very talented actor. See, Muck Muck, I'd like to delve into that. I wish I had 10 lives. I could do podcasts on stories like this. This fascinates me. Why was he blackballed? What's going on? Nomad is right. Terrence Howard is another great character actor, and who also happens to be a guy who has been blackballed to some degree. Maybe blackball is too strong a word, but there's been some controversy regarding him. That guy is a fantastic actor. I can't believe that anybody wouldn't want to cast him in a role. Men of Honor is a great movie. The other picture I have of Cuba Gooding up on the screen is him as O.J. Simpson. And while he personally was great in the role, I thought he was miscast, though. You know why? First of all, Cuba Gooding is like 5'10". O.J. Simpson was 6'2", maybe even 6'3", 225 pounds. And so Cuba didn't have, and I'm talking about the 10-part series, which if you've never seen, you really should see. The People versus O.J. Simpson, I think it's called. It's a fantastic look back at the O.J. Simpson trial. Every episode is fantastic. Remember Judgment Night? I don't know. But anyway, it's a fantastic show. Lots of big stars playing a lot of the characters many of us remember from the O.J. Simpson trial. But I thought he was miscast just because the O.J. Simpson's physical presence, you could even tell on a small TV sets when he was jumping through suitcases and Hertz commercials and stuff. This guy was a fucking Adonis. He was just so big and strong. And Cuba, as you can see there, he just doesn't have the physical characteristics of O.J. Simpson. And Cuba there looks like he's maybe had a few drinks in his time. And part of the reason I think the jury acquitted O.J. was because they would fucking look at him and say, that's the most handsome man I've ever seen in my life. That motherfucker walks into the courtroom and I don't see anybody else but OJ. And I think the jury fell in love with Cuba and with OJ, and Cuba doesn't exude that. Nonetheless, he's still a favorite of mine when it comes to supporting characters. Nancy Bates. We all remember Nancy Bates from her fantastic role in Misery. She was a leading actress there. But Nancy Bates is an actress who, in any supporting role that she's in, she's going to knock it out of the park. That lower right-hand picture of her is her as one of the characters in the Titanic, the Unspeakable Molly Brown, I think it was called. She was actually on the Titanic, and she's known for having challenging what was going on with the ship's crew and so forth. The picture above is her lead role in Dolores Claiborne, and I recommend that, especially if you're a Stephen King lover, although it's not, maybe the traditional Stephen King movie. It's more of a Hitchcockian tale, and she's fantastic in the lead role. But Kathy Bates is another person who I'd love to study her biography and learn more about her. Here's a name that you probably don't even know, but every time I see her in a movie or a TV show, TV series, I like her immediately. It's Judy Geer. And it's not like a sexual thing. It's not like, for instance, I'm trying to remember her name now. When you get old, you forget names so fucking fast. But the woman who's with her in that movie 13 going on 30, she's hot. And so I would see her in any movie just because she's hot. Judy Geer is not, in my opinion, hot. She's just a fucking phenomenal actress. The picture on the left is her in the George Clooney movie called The Descendants, where she plays the wife of a man who was having an affair with George Clooney's wife. And in the small role that she had there, she fucking knocked it out of the park at a very phenomenal emotional scene at the end of the movie. If you ever get a chance to watch that movie, I highly recommend it. The Descendants, and really anything that Judy Geer is in, she's going to really hit it out of the park. All right. A lot of comments have been made on actors who kind of fit this category, and so I'm going to scroll up and try to capture some of them. Willem Dafoe is a name that came out prominently, and Foster says Dafoe's doing Medicare commercials now. No, don't tell me that, Foster. I mean, he still gets, big money. He must need the money if he's doing a Medicare commercial, because he's still being cast in movies. Val Kilmer's name came up. Val Kilmer was, with the exception of some movies, but Val Kilmer was mostly a leading man in most of his movies. It was Boys in the Hood. Thank you, C Sharp. Thank you, Zach Sullivan, and other people who told me that was the first movie Cuba Gooding was in, at least the first movie of any acclaim. Excellent, excellent movie. But I remember being in the theater watching it and I'm saying, you know what? I gotta live this life. I think I could have told the story better, but nonetheless, it was a good movie and deserves the praise that it gets. Cuba Gooding was good in radio, absolutely. Rod Tidwell, okay, was the name. How about Peter Weller, says Cliff Victoria. Peter Weller coming back decades after Buckaroo Banzai to play in Star Trek. That's a good name. Although I think Peter Weller, he was Australian. And did he come here with RoboCop? Wasn't that one of his first movies and was immediately billed as the leading star? So I don't know. I don't know if he's just quite in this category that I'm looking for. Matt Dillon is a guy who, to me, he's again more of the leading man. His brother, the guy that was in Entourage, is more of the character that I'm thinking of. What the fuck is his name? He was in Platoon as a young guy, but nonetheless, Gladiator boxing movie, Chicago-based movie. Nonetheless, both of those guys are worth mentioning. John Goodman is a great name, Bob. John Goodman is rarely ever the leading man in a movie. He's the supporting actor, great character voice. You know, he does a lot of voiceovers for commercials, and as soon as it pops on, you know that's John Goodman. And, you know, he was, of course, people know him most from his role on the Roseanne show, and he was a co-star on that show. But in movies, he was mostly that supporting character, that character actor, and he always hit it out of the ballpark, always did. Let's see, who else? Philip Seymour Hoffman. There you go, Mr. Mayhem. Excellent, excellent name. This guy has to be in this category that I'm talking about right now, the John Casales, the Carol guy that Dan Aguirre came up with. I would put Philip Seymour Hoffman in that category too. Top 10. There's no doubt about it. I would love to watch a documentary on his life. This guy was the type of guy who could play fucking anything. He could play the guy in Boogie Nights who was the production assistant who had gay feelings for the Mark Wahlberg movie. He could play a lead role, the Truman Capote movie in the biography of the famous writer. He could play anything in between. He was in he played like a faith healer in The Master with, gosh, I should have prepared for this, but because I forget names at my fucking age, it's awful. Not River Phoenix, Joaquin Phoenix. In The Master, he was the co-star with Joaquin Phoenix. If you've never seen that movie, if you like movies that, you know, have a meditative pace to them, the visuals are extraordinary, the story is haunting, I highly recommend you watch The Master. It's a movie by P.T. Anderson and Philip Seymour Hoffman. It deserves to be in that top 10 of this special category. I wish I had a name for it. Yeah, Hoffman was good. Mayhem. Let's see who else. Muck says James Caan and Wesley Snipes are two great actors who've been blackballed in the industry. I didn't know that about James Caan. I knew that about Wesley Snipes, primarily because he had trouble with the law, but there been some other unconfirmed stories about some of his behavior, getting high and stuff like that. So I don't know. OJ and the Naked Gun was outstanding. John C. Reilly. Zachy. Bing, 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 bing. He deserves mention in this special category too. There's no doubt about it. Mr. Mayhem says that Jim Caviezel has been blacklisted too. Yeah, I think like him and James Woods, because of their extremist far right views, Hollywood has not been anxious to cast those guys in movies. Foster says, James, the first time I saw Morgan Freeman was on Channel 11 of the Electric Company. Same here, Foster. That's where I remember the first encounter I had with Morgan Freeman. He was on, I think he was on Sesame Street and the Electric Company maybe, but that's where he started. New York actor, got a break to be on those PBS shows and did a phenomenal job. And then his career just took off. And I think, you know, I was thinking about Morgan Freeman too. Does he deserve to be in this category? But he's become such a huge star. he's never been I shouldn't say never been a leading man, because he has been a leading man as he played a detective in one movie, The Bones, something Bones. But his popularity is so big that I don't know if he deserves to be in this category, but maybe I'm wrong. It's a very vague thing. Scrolling down for, Kathy Bates. Demand Dicey says, Kathy Bates was funny in Bad Santa too. Absolutely. She's got comedic chops too. She's the type of a woman that can do anything. And thank you, Larry T. It is Jennifer Garner, who I will see in anything because she's so damn cute. She's the woman who was in that photograph with Judy Greer. So Jennifer Garner, love you. Come on over to my house when my wife is out of town and we can talk about your next movie. Judy Greer was in Halloween. Yes, you're right, but not the original Halloween. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayhem. Wasn't she in one of the other Halloween movies? Bad Santa 2 was very funny. Scrolling for some more comments here is Defoe is one sinister looking son of a bitch. There's no doubt about it. He played in a movie. There's a movie about the life of James Whale, who was one of these early movie directors from the 20s and 30s. He did Frankenstein, The Invisible Man, and Defoe played the Nosferatu character, which is the Dracula character. Nosferatu is the German name for it. And so that was an early silent movie in the late 1920s, and in about 20 years ago, Defoe played that Nosferatu character and the actor who played that character in a movie. I've never seen it. I have the DVD. You know, it's one of those movies. I want to be in the right mood for a run, and here it is 20 years later. I still haven't seen it. Stanley Tucci is a great fucking name. He's on that top 10 list, Mr. Mayhem. Excellent choice. Excellent choice. Stanley Tucci is that supporting act. I don't know if I've ever seen Stanley Tucci in a lead role. I'm not saying that he hasn't been, but I don't think I've seen a movie where Tucci was the lead actor, but he's a phenomenal actor. Nomad is right. Jamie Foxx, if he's not the most talented cat in Hollywood, he's got to be in the top 2 or 3, right? No doubt about it. James Earl Jones, even I don't know what that means about his voice, but just bringing up the James Earl Jones name, I had to stop because he's one of the world's greatest actors and one of the greatest voice talents. There you go, Mr. Mayhem. Mr. Mayhem knows his movies here. William Fichtner is an underrated actor. Yes, William Fichtner. Did you guys ever see the movie Go? And if you haven't, check it out. I forgot the name of the director, but he's gone on to do a lot of great movies. This was one of his first movies. It's a story about a drug deal told from the point of view of 4 separate characters. And William Fichtner Fichtner, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but he plays a guy who is pretending to be a salesman from like an Amway company, but he's really an undercover cop. It's the fucking funniest thing ever, and it's just a really, really cool movie. The movie's called Go. Definitely check it out. Harvey Keitel is an excellent name. Again, Demand Dicey knows his movies. How about Chaz Palminteri, Jay Grist? That's another excellent name. Absolutely. He deserves to be on that top 10 list. I would leave Harvey Keitel out of it, Demand, because I think his popularity is so strong that people immediately know Harvey Keitel. But then again, he's done so many great things as a supporting character. You look at his role in Pulp Fiction as the Mr. Wolf character. You look at him as the pimp in Taxi Driver. There's been other supporting actor roles, so maybe he deserves to be on the list too. Robert Duvall, excellent candidate. Bryan Cranston, excellent candidate. J.K. Simmons in the Spider-Man trilogy. J.K. Simmons in anything that he's done. Did you ever see the HBO series Oz? It was fucking, when it first came out, I want to say it was early 1990s. But boy, you talk about breaking a lot of rules. Guys walking around with their dicks out in jail and so forth. The hard life of prison life with men being raped by other prisoners and stuff. It's amazing. And J.K. Simmons was the leader of the white Aryan gang inside the prison. Wow, sinister performance. Really, really good. Let's see. Oh, Foster is right. It's not Willem Dafoe doing those commercials. It's William Devane in the commercials. That's right. I actually just saw a William Devane movie, Rolling Thunder, where he plays a guy coming back. It's a really dark kind of taxi driver movie. He comes back from the war and finds out that his wife has been fucking his best friend and she's leaving him because he was a prisoner of war for like 4 years. And so she felt like he's dead and so forth. And what ensues after that is like Taxi Driver, that last scene in Taxi Driver, the carnage. Well, that's what happens in this movie. So it makes sense that Paul Schrader, who wrote both of those movies, was behind that movie, Rolling Thunder. Let's see what else we got here. Foster says William Devane could play any role. Absolutely. He played President Kennedy in, I think it was a TV series about the October missile crisis. J2K says Killer of the Flower Moon was that way, but I didn't connect to the actors' roles. Interesting. Dan Aguirre is a huge fan of that film. I have not seen it yet. I'm a little bit afraid because of the running time, 3 hours, and being in a movie theater for 3 hours. And at 65 years old, I'm kind of waiting for it to be 65 years old, like I'm fucking an old man and shit. I don't shit in my pants or anything, but you never know. It could happen while I'm watching Killers of the Flower Moon. So Rita Moreno is a great name. Great fucking name. And I've seen some old black and white movies when she was like 19 years old. Oh my gosh. Madon. God out. Wow. She was sexy. And she went on West Side Story was her big break and went on to do a lot of movies. She's somebody I would put in that list. Absolutely. Let's see. Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames is an excellent name. Co-star in a lot of the Mission Impossible movies and Pulp Fiction. He had that fucking great role as what the hell was his name in Pulp Fiction? Somebody help me out. Eric Roberts is a good name. That dude in The Green Mile who unalived the mouse. Don't know his name. No, man, who are you talking? Oh, you're talking about the big black guy who was a bodyguard here in Chicago, and then when he had 3 names, Duncan something, Duncan, whatever, and he died way too early. Is that who you're talking about? I think that is. Randy Quaid is a good name, definitely. And now Randy Quaid is turned into like a weirdo. He's got a long, bushy beard. He's like has no money or something like that. So I'd love to know more about what happened to him. Let's see. Mr. Shorty says, I am friends with Mike Myers from the Rob Zombie movies. Dude is enormous. What do you mean by that? I'm friends with Mike Myers. Oh, you're talking about the actor who plays Mike Myers. Okay. Gary Oldman, excellent choice. Love him in anything he does. And if the movie's not good, I still love Gary Oldman. That's the type of actor we're talking about. He's a British actor too, and always pulls off great American accents, whether he's playing a political person in that one movie where he is against the there's an actor, and I'm forgetting her name too, but she is being appointed to be vice president because the vice president died, and Gary Oldman plays a very conservative Southern congressman who doesn't think a woman should be in the White House, and he's just fucking phenomenal in that movie. Let's see. Gary Goldman was great as Jim Commissioner Gordon. Yes. Oh, yes, he was. Yeah, he's good in anything. Goldman is phenomenal. Danny McBride. I don't know who Walton Goggins is. Again, another vote for Chaz. Oh, good choice here, Zach. Dennis Farina, former Chicago police officer, was hired to be a consultant / kind of extra supporting character in some police movie being filmed here in Chicago. I think it was either a Steven Seagal movie or a Chuck Norris movie that was filming here in Chicago. And then he loved the acting thing and left the police force. It started getting hired like immediately and has left his mark. He's an excellent choice. Let's see, Kim Coates. I don't really know who Kim Coates is, Mr. Mayhem. William H. Macy, another great fucking name. William H. Macy. By the way, have you seen the latest news? His wife, Felicity Huffman, was just released from jail. She cheated. She was responsible for her daughter's college application. There was a bunch of false information on it. Felicity Huffman wrote it, and that story is wild. And the fact that William H. Macy is in no way connected with this cheating scandal, it's a great job, Mr. Macy. Great job. Oh, Steve Buscemi. Yes. God damn. If I was making a movie about John Cazale, I would cast Steve Buscemi. Maybe he's a little too old now, but that's a great, great choice. Ted says Steve Buscemi's teeth, not so much. How about Luis Guzman? I love Luis Guzman. Puerto Rican, New York Rican. Probably his family knew my family. And I got to tell you, man, that is the ugliest Puerto Rican I've ever seen in my life. But he is a great fucking actor, Deman says, Aldo, are you into Mad Max movies and have you seen the trailer? Yes, for the new one. Fucking A. I saw the very first Mad Max movie, I think when I was either in college or coming out of college, and I said, holy shit, this is a phenomenal movie. You know, low budget, Australian made, that guy that plays Mad Max, what a fabulous presence he has. And then years later, when The Road Warrior came out, holy fuck. I think I went to the McClure Court 3 times the first week it was released to see it. Brought my friends. You got to see this movie and stuff. The Mad Max movies, the Road Warrior movies are phenomenal. And the man behind the first one and the last one is George Miller, the director, phenomenal visionary. That last one, I forgot the title, but it's with Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy. That is probably, from a visual extravaganza perspective, the most amazing movie I've ever seen. The most fucking amazing movie. If you don't like, super violent, high action movies, I still beg you, implore you, go watch it. Turn off the volume. Wear some earplugs or whatever, but just watch the visuals or rent the Blu-ray. Watch it. You got to watch it in high quality. That movie is so fucking phenomenal. And George Miller, the director from those movies and other movies, he did the second, what's the name of that pig movie? Fuck is the name of the pig movie? Pig Goes to Town or something like that. Whatever the name of it is. But if you watch that second movie, you see his style. It's this frenetic, kinetic energy to the way he shoots movies. George Miller, and there's 2 George Millers who are directors out there. Don't confuse them, because one is way better than the other one. Anyways, Vinnie Jones is a great name. Definitely. Yeah, Tom Hanks. No, he's great. Yeah, Tom Hanks to me is the best. One of the best. I hate to say the best or favorite in anything, because that always changes, right? But Tom Hanks, to me, he's up there with the legendary great American actors from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s. If you're going to build a Mount Rushmore for actors, you got to consider having Tom Hanks in there because he's been so great. Billy Connolly is another good name. Absolutely. British actor, very funny. Jeff Bridges is a leading man. But in his latter years, he's been doing more supporting roles, and so he's good name to bring up. Any actor in a Coen's movie, man, that's good because the Coen brothers know how to flesh out these supporting character roles. There's no doubt about it. They do a good job. Some directors do that, and some don't even pay attention to them. Don't even talk to them on the set. J.T. Walsh is an excellent name. Emmett Walsh is also an excellent name. John Leguizamo, a Colombian / Puerto Rican, I believe he is. Excellent name. Let's see. Nick Nolte, Rich Man, Poor Man. Nick Nolte, I wouldn't put into this character because he was the poor man, so he was the title character, and the rich man was Peter Strauss. But for you young bloods out there, Foster and I remember Rich Man, Poor Man. It was a 5-night ABC miniseries, and all of the country was tuned in to watch that. And then Roots came out after that, and then all the country and part of the world came out to watch that. That was a great stuff. Kim Coates was in Waterworld. I did not see. The Last Boy Scout, I vaguely remember. Great opening football scene, but the rest of the movie, I think that the alcohol and marijuana set in, so I don't remember much of that. And I have the entire DVD set of Sons of Anarchy. Got to get to it. Yes, I agree with this, C Sharp. Tom Hanks is the new Jimmy Stewart. That's an excellent comparison. Absolutely. Walter Goggins is in Justified, and I saw season 1. The Shield, I've never seen. The Righteous Gemstones, I've never seen. And Vice Principals. So I'm going to get on that, Mr. Mayhem. I like your taste and stuff, so I'm going to give that a shot. John Hamm is a leading actor. He's a leading actor and one of my favorite actors. What the work that he did on Mad Men is phenomenal. So I wouldn't put him in that. Here's a good one. Frank Vincent in the Scorsese movies. Yes. Let me see if I can find a picture of him real quick. Frank Vincent, if I remember the story correctly, he may have been in the mob sometime in his life. So this guy was acting with based on some real life experiences. I may be wrong on that, so please don't hold me to that. But I just found a really cool picture of him, and I'm going to download it now. Frank Vincent is an excellent example of that character actor. You'll know him as soon as I put this picture up. Oh yeah, that's Frank Vincent. Yeah, that's Frank Vincent. Awesome in mob movies, Scorsese movies. I don't know if you can cast this guy in any other role than a bad guy, right? Maybe a judge, maybe a sadistic cop, maybe, but you're not going to cast him as the father of the teenage daughter, right? You're not going to cast him as the friendly counselor at school. No, not Frank Vincent. No way. Hugo Weaving. Yes. Yeah, I love Hugo Weaving. I love his voice. Oh my gosh. Hugo Weaving, The Matrix. Absolutely. Now, it will be hard for me to mention other Hugo Weaving movies. I know he's been in at least 2 other movies that I've seen, but I just don't remember them. So let's see. Paul Giamatti. C Sharp, I was thinking about adding him to my list, but he's become such a strong leading man. I don't know if you guys watched the Showtime series, what's it called? Billions. Yeah, Billions. And he's the leading star on that movie. He's been a lead actor in a number of other movies. When his career first started, like he was in Private Parts, he played Pig Vomit. He was a supporting character there, and I could tell immediately from that role, this guy's a fucking good actor. I think that's the first time I remember in a movie. And then his career just took off after that. He's a great name. I'm glad you pointed him out. I wish you would have pointed him out when Dan was here, because for some reason Dan Aguirre doesn't like Paul Giamatti. Like, what's wrong with you? The guy's good. Is it because he was related to the baseball commissioner? He's his son? I don't know. Yeah, no, man, you're right. I should probably do typecast it next time. Yeah, that's probably a better way to put it. All right, scrolling here real quickly so we can get out of here. Robert Loigia, good name. Christopher Lloyd is a very good name. Andy Garcia. By the way, my wife told me I fell in love with you because you reminded me of Andy Garcia. And I go, there's no fucking part of me that's like Andy Garcia. Not anything. But if you think so, that's fine by me. Christopher Walken, Steve Buscemi, Christopher Lloyd, all good names. Definitely. All right, guys, that's our show for tonight. I want to just shout out Johnny Santucci. We missed you. I hope you are feeling well. And Dan Aguirre, you are the absolute best at this whole podcasting thing. You're phenomenal. Oh, you know what? I actually, because we ran out of time, I didn't. David Morse, good name. Andy Griffin, no. All right, I wanna share something with you guys before we get out of here. Still some people in the house. You know, there have been these television networks no longer immediately show injuries in sports events. When I grew up, they were fucking looking for replays, and if they found the replay of the guy's leg snapping in half, they would show it. And then it was an outcry, some people started complaining, and over time it's gotten much more vociferous, people complaining about showing that stuff. I don't mind it, and maybe it's my old-fashioned way that I grew up. I'm fascinated by it. I want to see the car crash. I want to see the guy's head decapitated. And I know I sound sick, and guess what? I am. But truly, I don't know. I grapple with this myself. I don't know if we should be so sensitive to this stuff. It happens. So I'm going to show you a couple of clips of stuff that happened this weekend. I was reluctant to show them. Yeah, Joe Theismann, exactly. And Kathy Griffin too. Yes, holding Trump's head. But so I'm going to show you some graphic stuff. Two things that happened this weekend. The first one is the punter from the Titans, Ryan Stonehouse. They showed it on the replay, and then they said, we're not going to show it again because it's too graphic and stuff. So, of course, I'm going to rewind this and fucking videotape it, and I'm going to show it on Tuesday's show. Here it is. The punter, Ryan Stonehouse, you just fucking broke your leg. Look at that. Holy shit, man. That was one of the things when I played sports as a kid. That was one of the things that I was fearful of, is somebody pushing back on my knee. And lo and behold, it happened. I'm in gym class, my senior year of high school. I go in to lay a spike, I fucking spike it, and the guy who was trying to block it falls into my knee and fucking bends it the other way. I fucking limped out of the gym and went straight to the doctors. Met a really cute girl there, but that's the end of that story. So, any thoughts on Ryan Stonehouse? Do you think we should be watching? Oh my God, that's right. Do you think it's okay for the networks to show this? Do you think that, fuck the networks, if I see it and I record it, do you think it's okay for me to put up on social media as long as I put graphic? You pussies who can't take this, don't watch this. As long as I warn people. Because I've done that. Yes, I am a sick bastard. No, man, you got me right, man. I'm very sick. Wait till the next one I show you. And Mr. Shorty is right. Those kinds of injuries are life-changing. Yes, they make me happier. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so this one was the announcers specifically said, we're not going to show this one because it's somebody in the sidelines, and it's just gruesome. And so, of course, I had to fucking rewind, and then I found the clip, and then I zoomed in, and I want to make sure all of us see it. This was from the Monday night game or was it Sunday night? It was one game. Anyways, Lions and Saints. And look at the leg on that poor sideline worker. You didn't see it? Oh, there it is. I'm going to zoom in for you right now. Here, at least I did this. The guy was fucking wailing and crying. At least I cut the audio out. All right? But just in case you missed it, here it is again. Running back goes out, gets the guy, clips his knee, and look at that fucking knee. It is bent in the way. And then Kamara just walks away. He says, let me take one last look at it before I walk away. And what is that hole? Is that a hole in your sock? Anyway, I wanted to talk with Dan about it. I sent the first clip of the punter to Dan. And I said, hey, do you mind if if I show you this on the show Tuesday? We talk about it. He goes, no, all right, would I mind? So he's as sick as I am. I think he's actually sicker. Never climb a ladder around. Yeah, I'm the type of guy where if I see you fall, I'm going to say, hold on. Can you do that again? I want to get it on my camera. When I was in college, I remember I was in a class and the professor, it was a class about documentaries from World War II and the Korean War and stuff. And he brought up the topic of, journalists, photojournalists have the dilemma. If they see something bad, should they put the camera down and go help the person? Or do they keep filming because that's their job? Keep filming. Never got a fucking girl in that class. It was over. It was over. I should have kept my mouth shut. All right, that's our show. 3 hours and 15 minutes, and without the Tooch. Again, Tooch, I hope you're well. And Dan Aguirre, thank you very much for all you do. And tomorrow is Wednesday. Oh, my gosh. Buffon 55. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. Danny Shimon is going to break some tape down on Montez Sweat. He's got 4 or 5 clips he's going to break down to show you and anyone else that you want to invite to the party what the effect that Montez Sweat has had on Chicago Bears defensive line. Along with that, John Buffon's going to open the show with his 5 rants, talk a little bit about what he did during the time off, and got some great discussion with Alyssa Barrieri and Dan on all the latest news, Eric Bieniemy, those rumors, these last 5 games. Lots to talk about on tomorrow's episode of Buffon 55, which starts at 7:30. Working backwards at 6 o'clock, Mac and Reed, they're going to talk about the latest Bears news and also touch on what's happening in the NBA and popular culture. And then before that, at 2 o'clock, it is my man Vinny Parisi and my other man Frank Miller talking about NHL hockey. If you're a hockey fan, check it out. If you've got nothing to do, don't fucking put on porn. Watch Vinny and Frank and fantasize about them. All right. So Foster, you get the final word. Like Jack would say, if you leave the camera rolling. Indeed. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me. You guys are the absolute best. I really appreciate your support of the Barroom Network. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.